somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Waliletea fujo Moi mpaka wakapata cooperation. Wakakuja wakasumbua Kibaki mpaka wakachukua nusu mkate. Wamekuja wakazungusha Uhuru hapo mpaka wakaenda na handshake, program yetu ikapotea, BBI ikaendelea, tukazama, tukaingia kwa madeni. Sasa mimi nimewaambia, hii serikali hii, mimi nawaambia hii serikali ni ya mahasla. Hakuna nusu mkate, hakuna handshake, hakuna hiyo borojo.
Jana nimeona wale wazee tulishinda. Ati hiyo mzee akisema ati he'll not be coerced or intimidated to joining our government. Wewe mzee sikia. We have no business within our government. Hatuna haja na hatugojei wewe. We are not looking for you and we have no time. Stop saying that people can force you to come to this government. Forget about being forced or coerced. We are not interested because sisi tuko na kazi ya kufanya.
Kama kuna mtu ako na namba ya William Ruto, arekodi hii video mtumie. Maisha yangu tangu nizaliwe sijawahi kuona mtu muongo, mfisadi, baradhuli na mdhabina kama William Samoei Ruto.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Oh, great! This June, the biggest Club World Cup ever held is here. The 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Recharge your subscription on your current bouquet for 2 months and get upgraded free to the next higher bouquet for 60 days. A competition across the continent. 30 action-packed days of top-notch football from 32 best club teams from around the world. Recharge your subscription today to never miss a moment of a competition like never before. On the move, download StarTimes on and watch every goal, every moment, anytime, anywhere. StarTimes Sports, beyond passion. StarTimes, enjoy digital life.
This is not an announcement, it's a pact.
To plant trees and protect our environment.
To drive mentorship and education.
To grow businesses with funding and training.
To share with our communities.
Since 2020, we've honored this pact.
As we mark 5 years, we renew it because all impact begins with a pact. I&M Foundation, celebrating 5 years of impact, powered by I&M Bank.
Mambo siku hizi ni T for tough.
Hata deti ya pasua imekuwa ngori.
But guess what? Kutransfer do kutoka bank to M-Pesa na I&M Bank bado ni sare kabisa.
Sare as in free, yani freest.
Maze, one less thing to worry about.
As an individual or solo biz account, bank to M-Pesa and Airtel money transfer is still free. Yani sare kabisa. Download the I&M Bank app or visit any branch today to open an account. I&M Bank, on your side. Regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
Traffic.
Taking a look into the morning, and let's see what these roads look like as we get into Tuesday. Not much happening as you kick off. If you're coming in, let's kick things up a little bit. And if you're coming in from the other side on Gong Road this morning, not much with traffic, not now at least. Langata Road has bits and bobs of traffic. Everybody is back to school today, so traffic is going to be a little bit crazy as we know it. School buses back on the roads. On the Thika Superhighway, a little bit of traffic is starting to form as you get then through towards Survey. Kangundo Road is busy. Also, the Eastern Bypass is starting to fill up this morning. All right, let's see what Tuesday has in store, and we'll see how we get through it. We'll talk SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? How are you?
Shalom sana.
We're into it, like busy bees.
Busy.
I feel like so much is going on at the same time, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
Dennis Okari, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Today you look interesting.
Oh, there's an adjective I didn't expect, but okay. How?
Continue.
You're wearing a jacket.
That is shocked every day.
July has ushered you. You're ushering yourself into July. A jacket. Never seen you in one.
Really?
No. The studio is so cold.
It's
What are the
cold.
temperatures?
I adjusted, yes.
You adjusted?
Yeah.
Like you increased the temperatures or you lowered?
Up.
They're what now?
Right now
30?
30, yes.
Really?
It's like an hour before it picks
We're gonna
up.
start toasting in
the
a
table
minute.
is cold. Everything is just cold.
But the warmth in your heart is enough to warm up the nations.
Hey,
The heat in your heart is enough to set the nations ablaze.
preach now.
My brother, don't let these small things of temperature outside dull you.
Go deeper, woman of God.
Don't allow the things of the earth.
Amen.
Don't allow the things of the earth
Oh,
to
yes.
dissuade you from your destiny.
Oh, yes.
Amen.
It doesn't matter whether it's cold or not.
It doesn't matter whether it's cold as an icicle or whether it is blazing like the fire of hell, my friend.
The warmth from within.
The thing
shall
that is
sort it
inside
out.
you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is what we are looking for.
And God bless you.
Amen. No. Yeah, why is it that you can't just say S? Why does it have to be SH? I say to you, my sister, you will be blessed in the mighty name of Jesus.
No, not in the mighty. In the mighty name of Jesus.
No, in Akwanga ni upako. It's
It
power.
sounds better when you say shush.
Yeah, you roar.
Okay.
You know, because the lion is in us.
Yeah.
So you roar.
You roar.
Yes.
Okay.
You have to be like a small Simba.
The big one.
Okay.
The bigger one is in you. He that is in you is greater than he that is in the
That
world.
is what I've been telling you all this time. It's not small cold that's
This
going
week
to
is inspirational.
move you.
See, we start like this till 10.
It looks like that's what we're going to do.
We smile all the way.
I'm telling you. Now that we've established everybody is fine, let me tell you the things that we'll be talking about today, and we're going to start with fire. Hey, Lydiah, are you fine? You know who is also here? You know how I told you Eve is like pint-sized? Then now today she's wearing red. She's like the little engine that could.
Yeah.
Did you guys read that nursery rhyme in school?
The what?
Sorry.
Which school did you go? You went to a school with you guys are not wearing uniform. Us guys went to schools where we were wearing Tukonava Kaptula. The schools we went to. Ati, which book did you read?
The little engine that could.
The little engine that could.
Yes, that could. In its mind, it was a little red engine.
That's a book you read in school. You know what we read? I tell you what we were reading.
Mr. and Mrs.
Kamau. They went to the bus stop.
They had two children.
And little Kamau.
Mary and John.
We were reading about school buses in books. That's why we see the yellow school buses in books.
Yeah, and even traffic lights. That's why Eldoret the other week just got traffic lights installed. No one knows how to use it.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It's that bad.
Eldoret.
Yeah.
First time they're having traffic lights.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw them was almost 20 years ago.
And you say no one knows how to use them. What do you mean?
Aje, ati red means go where? Mi naenda bana.
Green means go.
No, huko ni red means go.
Let me not say what I'm thinking.
So the point of my story.
The traffic lights will be politicized. Those colors.
Oh yeah.
Oh God in heaven.
Anyway.
The point of my story was that Eve is here.
Yeah.
Eve is back, and she's wearing red.
Eve, where are you? You know, Eve is like those. You know those two lights you see on top of towers.
Wow.
The red ones.
Yeah.
That's what she looks like.
You are towering like that. That's what I'm meant to say.
And the dimpled beauty is also here.
Yeah.
Lydiah, good morning. I can't see you, but I'm trying to wipe my glasses at the same time.
She held her hair back today.
But she did. And then Raniar is also here.
Yeah.
Hi Raniar. I can't see you, but I can just see people.
Raniar is wearing boshori.
No, it's unfair to our viewers, and they can't see them. We need to bring them one of these five minutes.
It's got to be that. Tomorrow is Wednesday.
Yeah.
We have to make it happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
So. Okay, everybody has to see you tomorrow. So I was telling you conversations that we're going to have. Our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Also, our audience on KTN here as well. Good morning, everybody. Karibu Sana. We're starting off with a bang. PLO Lumumba is going to be here at 7 a.m. We're going to be looking at where we are as a nation. He's often had quite a number of inspirational things to say, but at the same time, he's been very grounded in the direction in which we should be taking based on the position where the country is at the moment. So he joins us for that conversation at 7. Then at 8 o'clock, Jimmy Wanjigi is a businessman. He also is a former presidential candidate. He is also the party leader of Safina. He's going to be here at 8 o'clock, and we'll be looking at a number of things. Again, which direction? We'll take a slide towards the economy, but also who's the person who should lead the country coming in the next presidential election. Rather, the next election, not just a presidential one. Because we have leaders across board. Finally, at 9 a.m., the People's Liberation Party is led by one Martha Karua. She will join us at 9 a.m. and we'll be talking about a number of things with her as well. Alternate leadership is one of them that we'll get into, as well as her role that she plays in different parts of the region. So those are the conversations that we have lined up through this Tuesday. A number of things happened, and we're going to get into those as well, because yesterday the DCI stood before the country and said, you know what? We have 489 people in custody. Is it 69 or 89? It's 489 people in custody. These people have been charged with a raft of charges, from murder to treason to terrorism to stealing to robbery with violence to assault to etc., etc., etc. He said this yesterday. He was asked a number of questions like, why did you lie under oath? And now that you lied under oath, how do we then believe the things that you are saying now? And he said, I swore I didn't, but okay. He also said that certain things were not going to be allowed anymore. And the question then becomes that of all the 489 people who were arrested, can you be sure that each and every one of them is, liable for the charges that you're bringing against them? It's going to be an interesting ride. We'll have conversations around those things as well. And it's good that Martha Karua will be here because then we'll be able to have some of those conversations with her. Sawa. All right. That's what's lined up. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, DND, here with you this morning. And even as we get into those conversations, good to always have you here joining us. And Karibu Sana. Dennis yesterday took us to Burundi. Yes. And
a landlocked country in the East Africa region that bordered by Rwanda, Tanzania, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, Lake Tanganyika is one of the world's deepest and the longest freshwater lakes and forms part of Burundi's border. So we talk about the people and culture, like who just were the Burundians. Now, the main ethnic groups are the Hutu, Tutsi, and a small Twa, the Pygmy tribe. And Kirundi is the national language, along with French and English as official languages. Now, we go to the proverb of the day today, and you cannot hide smoke if there is fire.
You cannot hide smoke if there is fire. I think it's just direct. Whatever you bottle up, somehow there will be a pressure point that will be loose.
Yes.
And the analogy can be biological. I don't want to sound political today. It can be political, meaning that if you eat beans and you digest beans, there's a likelihood that
you will grow beanstalk on your head.
Yes.
Okay.
Or the compressor will work.
Yes, the compressor will explode. And there will be a pressure point that will be loose. So we will all know you ate beans.
Yeah.
Sour? Oh, you want me to? Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, there's no smoke without fire, really. There's that at some point there was a fire, and the evidence of that is the smoke. And I think you can do this across board.
Yeah,
that there will be evidence of something, and you can from there you can deduce that something else happened. You know, it's not going to be left behind. And also, I think that the truth will always surface. It'll take a minute, but you can come and you can. I remember how, I remember how we used to, like, there was a certain time that my folks wouldn't let us, watch TV. And we would go, of course, watch TV, and then we would, of course, at that time it would warm up a little bit. So my mother, with her intuition, wouldn't talk to anybody. She would just come and see all of you pretending one person is there watering flowers, another one is there pretending like she's doing something in the kitchen, another one is there pretending like he's reading a book. She would just go and she would touch the TV. And she was there, huh? Who was watching TV? And she said,
because it's warm.
It's warm. There's evidence. It's always going to be left behind, my friend. It's evident.
The truth will always reveal itself. So regardless of how you want to mask it, hide it, it will always reveal itself. So it's just a question of when.
Sasa Lydiah nauliza swali ngumu hapa. She said that me and you are wearing pink. Did you realize that you and I are wearing pink somewhere, Dennis? I said,
wait.
People are confusing me. Okari.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, apparently.
Pink. Yeah, I mean.
That's baby pink.
Great minds. Think alike.
Yeah, that's baby pink. Yeah, that one is
great minds.
And burgundy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, don't be angry. So, good morning, guys. We can see that you're online. Let me say hello to you really quickly, shall we? Because everybody has clicked into the room proper today. And I gotta say, I love it, guys, that we wake up at this time in the morning and you guys are just stepping on the gas, ready for us to go to have these conversations. The discourse is important. Even if you're a silent listener, a silent watcher, thank you for being here every morning. We don't take it for granted at all. Because you are here, it makes it possible for us to be as well. Robert Tobogo, good morning from Mombasa. Hiya. Nico area. Hiya. Tunakuona. African Queen is here, says good morning, family. Carol Yambura, tunakupenda. Happy new month, guys. It is July.
Yeah.
We're already into the second half of the year. Like a joke. Good morning, lovely cousin, says Paris Mudhoni. Linus Gitonga is tuned in this morning. PAYE, pay as you eat. Indeed, it is. Now, right at KDF, Ndu, ask Dennis, which one? Will HAFCO be scrapped? How are you, Aseto and Dennis? You said I should ask Dennis. Okay, I'm asking both of you. Will HAFCO be scrapped now that
HAFCO is the KDF
subsidy
center? Yeah.
The place where people go and buy
whatever
subsidized beverages.
Well, so far, all we know is the lunch money is what was removed. So
we don't know about the rest.
Yeah,
isn't it? Okay, let's see if I can do this in 2 minutes. Tibbs Muge, good morning to you. Happy July, Agola. Good morning, sister. How are you? Desmond Ortiz said no law that allows a police officer to shoot and kill when insulted. Owino is just protecting them. It was interesting because the DCI said that, well, Charles Owino is a police officer, yes, but he was not speaking in any capacity to speak for the IG of police. There is an IG of police. It's not him. So anything that he opened his mouth to say is his opinion and is not the position of the National Police Service. Wasa?
But there are a lot of gaffes that come from Owino that sometimes are troubling.
Yeah.
It's good to speak your mind, but at times it's wisdom to know when to shut your mouth.
To apply the brain-to-mouth filter.
Yeah. You remember there was a time he talked about the Albert Ojwang's murder.
Exactly.
And he ended up talking about how if it was truly a murder and it's a police officer who did it, there's a way you will do it. Basically, he was saying,
I would have done it better.
I would have done it better.
How to get away with murder.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Just say that.
So pretty much all you're saying is, that was not police. We are smarter than that.
Yeah, we would have covered it up.
Yeah.
So even if Boniface said something to the police officer, so those words warranted a close-range shot to his head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What
Two
words
wrongs
warranted?
don't make a right. Then.
What words warranted for you to shoot somebody in the head?
Yeah.
That's the question. Good morning, team. Kubwa says Sarah Kilonzo. Charles Harrison says good morning as well. Good morning from Narok is Jack Katambo. Can the Minister of Energy please switch the sun back on? I know. Paul Olola is tuned in from Thome. Okay. Leo says happy fridge month. Dennis and Aseto. Princess Ndu likes this weather. Yes, it's true, I do. How come there's always new innovators, but that's usually the end of hearing about them in their innovation? Like who now? Kip Koech Victor says good morning, Spice. Lichi Thiman says good morning. Desmond and Don, happy July, brothers. Hang on a minute. Desmond Otis and Don Sabo are brothers, or all of you like each other and you're just now greeting each other here? Either way, good morning. Mashari and Jeru says good morning, happy July. You are in winter, there we are in summer. King Dave Lubali says good morning, everybody. And Gore Chamgay, my beautiful people, greeting from a chilly Nairobi. Happy new month, Ndu, Lydia, and the Dennis Square. Onganyi Malala, good morning to you. And Gore is here and says happy new month as well. You say you watch our conversation from 4 in the evening. I must confess you're giving raw truth, no filter. Bless you. Keep Koech Victor, God bless you too. Thank you for being here. Rogers Lai, happy new month from Mombasani. Stanley Ngashe is tuned in, Team TSR, and says looking forward to great discussions. This is where we have them. Daniel Mutunda is tuned in from Machakos, Masaku. Kimathi Kruma McConnell says, good morning, Spice family. Asante sana for keeping transparency within revolutionary journalism. Excuse me. Pauline Githaiga says, good morning. Happy new month. And Rahim Tula Omar is in Nairobi. Really? You're in Nairobi? You're usually in Colchester in the UK. Did you make a trip for the winter and trade it in for the summer? Mwangi Juma says, good morning. Hope you're well. Aren't you? Are you?
I am.
And you?
Oh, good.
You know, when people ask us, we have to answer.
Tumesalamika.
Kabisa.
Edwin Wangoli, you say you write some pretty interesting articles in the Star on Fridays in the Siasa section. We will look out for you, for sure. House of Ngugi, Princess Ndu, you're the vibe. The vibe, Miskeo. New month, new blessings, new dawn. Positive vibrations. Good morning, Team Spice. Thank you so much. Peter says, good morning, guys. Ndu atoe glasses leo. Litoa. Glasses. Look, Lydia has told me that I should wear my contact lenses. From next week, I'll put my contact lenses in back in, and then we'll see how that goes.
Yes.
Oh, finally. Yeah, we get to see the eyes.
Yeah, get in your... Okay, so let's go.
Don't tell anybody. No. Anything lately, we see you. Good morning, Man P says, good morning, my people. Ola from Austin in Texas. And Sir Brian Mutego says, good morning from Sotik. Peter Jaron says, good morning. I know, my dear. Mutuflani, good morning. Thank you so much. Where? If I was of a lighter shade, I would be blushing. But even now I am. Pierre Wajo, he says, good morning. But don't, I like my mocha. I like my mocha shade very much. Mohan says, evidence. Of what, bro? Atieno, good morning. How is Kilifi? I need to come back. Zach OK says, good morning. Today's lineup is Moto. I'm telling you. Beryl Onyango says, Ndu, thanks for wearing pink and white. Your femininity is beautiful. I should embrace it more. This black story, they don't like it too. Okay, sawa nimesikia. Delvin Zodhiambo says, good morning. Asante sana, Beryl. Thank you so much. Atieno, yes. Thank you for being there every day. Thank you so much. Good morning from Dubai is Yahya. Calvin is also here. Kamora Wayu is tuning from Seattle in Washington. Achola Aduk says, good morning. Okari, you're looking smart. Without the R.
Oh, thank you.
But I'm the one who's added without the R. Wilfred Onsongo says, good morning. Abdullah Hussein is tuned in as well. Nyakundi Emmanuel, good morning. We love you. Happy new month. Thank you so much. Tumeamka kupambana na iTax. They've extended. Dennis, what did we say yesterday?
Exactly.
That they were going to extend. Hey. They've extended. You have some days to do what?
I did mine, Jana.
Oh, well done. Yeah. Okay, it's people like you that they extended for.
At what time?
In the afternoon. Someone helped me.
Last call.
You made the deadline. That's all that matters.
Sindio?
Yeah.
Oh, Rahim Sula says he's on summer break. That's why he's not in Colchester. Good morning, DND. Asante Sana. Saraya Brown says she's one of our... says one of our silent watchers. Thank you for making that comment this morning and letting us know that you're here. Very good to have all of you in the room. Even if we get into the discourse and we get to the things that sometimes heat us up, it is important to discuss. And that's why we have Kenya's biggest conversation. Asante Sana. Okie doke. Let's look into the headlines, shall we? Excuse me. Hey, this cold is going to get a lot of people sneezing and stuff, but hey, we move regardless. On the front page, of Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, where is Ndiangui? Yesterday, the DCI was asked, where is Ndiangui? He said, who?
Who that?
Ndiahua, yeah. Where is he?
even as we are looking for him.
We're also looking for him. Then after a minute where he reminded himself, or rather he remembered that there's such a case or such a person, he then remembered the details of when they were looking for him. And I also want to say that something else that came out from the DCI yesterday is when he was asked the question about why he lied under oath. And if he did actually then lie under oath, how do we believe the things that you say to us today? What did he say?
Nope.
I held the Holy Quran and I said that I would speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I was reading from a report. So you get what he said? Yep. I told you what I was given. So if you're coming to say that that was a lie, that's not me, essentially. I'm telling you what I was told. So I told the truth. But there's a picture of him on the paper today. And when we ask the question, where is Ndiangui? The answer is the buck stops here. DCI boss Mohammed Amin is gradually turning into the country's lead trickster, with a special gift for unleashing bouts of alternative facts. In his continuing well-oiled PR stints defending the era of abductions, he denied knowledge of missing blogger Ndiangui Kinyakia. Hours after the court summoned him and the IG with a straight face as 21st century cheats, Amin claimed to be also looking for him. A detail which he missed, however, is that when they went for Ndiangui, his neighbors saw the vehicles, the model which Amin's team uses in their infamous raids. Where is this young man? A number of us have been asking on social media spaces, where is he? He's been gone for almost 2 weeks now. Where is he? The last people he was seen in the company of was DCI boss's boys.
Well, there's online chatter currently going on of somebody who's been dumped in Rwaka, and people are saying kuna mtu amedampiwa hapa karibu na kwetu Rwaka. Nani anamjua? We don't know what to do. The police are not helping. Not sure if it is Ndiangui because wanafanana.
Okay.
Can't verify, but already there's chatter that there's somebody who's been found there. However, there's also, again, another conversation of an inventory that was taken by the DCI of the things that were taken from his house, including his laptops and all that. That photo was sent to the family. So the other question is, so who took the photo?
Exactly.
Who did who itemized the things that were taken from his house? But, you know, we're not strangers to this country, and this has happened before. So it's not surprising to hear what the DCI boss Mohammed Amin would say. But
absolutely. And I'm sorry, but I will not be surprised. As heavy as it is on my heart, I will not be surprised if the chatter that we are hearing at the moment turns out to be that it is Ndiangui. I wouldn't be surprised because these things happen in this kind of succession. We saw it with Masengeli when he refused to answer court summons until the seventh round. And then when he did, IG, now Douglas Kanja, came out and made a statement, and then Gafla Binvu, these boys from Kitengela, were dumped in different places in that afternoon.
But if we are to go with what we've seen before, we've been told that there a unit that is working separately from what we'll call
the abduction squad.
Yes. And so if this unit is working in isolation, it's receiving instructions elsewhere, then the former AG said his son was abducted. He made calls to the DCI. They said, we don't have him.
NIS.
We don't know. No, before going to NIS, tried the Kenya police. No, we don't. Spoke to PS Omolo, assured him, no, that person is not in our custody. Went to the head of state,
Suddenly.
and asked Mr. President intervene.
Yeah.
The president called an IS immediately.
Within an hour.
Yeah. The son was found.
So does it mean that this crew that you're talking about is being controlled by NIS?
I don't know, but I think that Justice Chacha Mwita is going to have a good time this morning because he actually has summoned the DCI to court. He's supposed to appear in court this morning. DCI Mohammed Amin said yesterday that he would appear in court, and the same thing that he said in that presser is what he's going to say in court today, that he's unaware of the whereabouts of Ndiangui. But do we see that this same behavior, when suddenly you appear in court, then we see somebody has been dumped? Look, there's a lot of conjecture, but the pattern looks like it's the same. Let's look at a few more headlines before we get into the meat of some of these stories, shall we? Still on the Kenya's Bold newspaper, looking into some of those internal pages, because the big headline there is this one about grief as Boniface Karaoke dies from gunshot injuries after 12 days in the ICU. Again, wild conjecture about when he actually did die. His family made the announcement yesterday that his body had given up its ghost at about 3:15 yesterday afternoon. Blow to Joho family as Apex Court cancels its KPA tender. That's okay, we'll see, because Deputy CJ Philomena Mwelu was giving that verdict yesterday. So, interestingly, again, looking at this other headline of the courts, IG Kanja is ordered to produce the missing blogger. It is not to come and tell us about his whereabouts. It is appear in court and appear with him, essentially, is what you are being told. Bring him, because the evidence is pieced together, and a judicial officer then who is dealt with interpretation then says, you know what, if I'm to put all of these things together, he was last seen in your hands, in your presence. So, excuse me, bring him.
You know, if we are to zoom out from this story, we are setting a very dangerous precedent here. I'm just looking at the frustrations of genuine officers who are working.
Yeah.
And let's assume, let's take a step back and assume that the Inspector General of Police has no idea where this gentleman is. Let's also assume that the DCI also doesn't know. So what exactly are you doing to security agencies in this country when it almost looks like either they know or they don't? So if they don't,
then why are you there?
Why are you there?
Absolutely.
But why are you putting somebody in a position where they're constantly frustrated because they have no clue on how to answer this question? And then there's another agency that's working on the side that has this blogger, because we've seen this in the past, you know, so it's not news.
See, another question that one would ask is if this body that is there is working contrary to the law, can the police investigate and give that information? And if they can and get that information, what's stopping them from giving it out?
What are you saying? Come on, guys. Look. It's a matter of will. Yesterday, Mohammed Amin, as the DCI boss, was very clear about these 489 people who had been arrested or being arraigned in court for whatever. What did he say? We have pieced together information and evidence in how many days? When was June 25th? 26, 27, 28, 29. Yesterday was the 30th of June.
Day.
In 5 days, you have pieced together information. You're continuing with the investigation to then bring 489 people with various charges, from murder to terrorism to stealing, with robbery with violence to sexual assault and all sorts of other things. You have pieced together evidence for almost 500 people, and you cannot tell us that in a cell where Albert Ojwang was for less than 24 hours, you can't tell us how he died? Come on.
And we know what's happening.
Come on.
Shut the front door.
And he said, what did he say? Be assured that we will find out who did what, and they will suffer for it. This is what he said outside the headquarters yesterday. This is the same people who cannot tell us what happened in I don't know how many by how many cell, what happened with Albert Ojwang, who, by the way, OCS Talam and Mukwana have lost the bid to block Ojwang's murder trial. This thing will go to trial. It will go to trial, and they're the ones on the dock. You can't tell us what happened in a room that's a quarter the size of this studio that we're sitting in. But you can tell us that in 5 days, 489 people have been brought to book, and that you will have charges against them, and you've already pieced together the evidence.
Remember, it's for...
You've actually investigated, completed the investigation, arrested, You're ready to press charges.
Yeah.
485 people. In how many days?
5.
In 5 days?
Yes. Do you know, I was watching yesterday and I was like, wait a minute. Then you know how you can watch it, then it's on YouTube. So I went back.
Yeah.
And I listened to what this man was saying. I was like, oh, are we in the same place? Or am I Alice and am I in Wonderland? Because what is going on here? Who are we meant to believe? What are we meant to believe? We have to ask the question. We do. As you give us other headlines, because I can see the smoke is already coming out of Okari's ear.
It's okay.
Well, this month I'm going to be chilled.
Okay.
I refuse to develop ulcers or get stressed.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so we're talking about the health situation in the country. Not as rosy, Fraud, the effectiveness of Kenya's most expensive healthcare system put in place to remedy the theft of taxpayers' money that plagued the defunct NHIF has been put to question after some 31 hospitals across 13 counties were found running elaborate deception schemes involving double billing, fake outpatient claims, forced and ghost admissions, as well as pre-authorization code abuses. The revelation of the scam could just be the tip of the iceberg. We thought we had healed that problem after getting rid of NHIF. Shoko knew we are here to stay.
You guys, this story is deep.
All right. And then the short hawker succumbs to police bullet, and 485 arrested over deadly June 25th protest is what we have on the Daily Nation, including Islamic law on inheritance overturned. Very well. I think those are what we have right here on the Daily Nation. We shall be going deeper to other headlines as well.
Well, let me quickly go through the Star. How youth power resets 2027 politics. So it's a story around the Gen Z Gen Z have become a decisive force that everyone wants to woo. There's a story there that's on page 11, but I'll just read the header there. Birth control debate rages as Kenya battles high teen pregnancies. So Kenya continues to battle alarmingly high rates of teenage pregnancy despite a slight decline in reported cases. So according to the Ministry of Health's Maternal and Newborn Health Status Report released in June, 240,787 adolescents aged between 10 to 19 years presented with pregnancy at their first antenatal care visit in 2024. That story in the inside pages of the Star. And then life sentence for father who repeatedly defiled daughter. So his quest for freedom has been denied at the High Court and Court of Appeal. I don't even want to go into the details of what happened in this story here.
I think you should.
You think I should?
I think we should look into the story.
Yeah.
It's, oh God, these stories are always, So AKK was held in a place of honor by her daughter, LWK, because we can't mention the names, of course.
Yeah. Sure.
But once he fell out with his wife and remained with LWK and our two siblings, he abused his trust, defiling her multiple times, stealing her innocence. Now, he is serving a life sentence and his quest for freedom has been denied in 2 instances at the High Court and the Court of Appeal. So LWK was 10 years old in 2015 when her world changed forever. So at the time of the repeated offense, LWK's mother had been married to the appellant since 2003 but was estranged after domestic disputes. We've seen these stories time and time and time again. And sometimes how it comes off is, because of the issues that he has with his estranged wife, so he's taking it on the daughter. But that's an excuse. That is an excuse.
It's an excuse from the pits of hell.
Yes.
Exactly. So this girl has gone through so much repeatedly from the father, and the father has tried to get his freedom, but life sentence.
Do you know the number of young children who are abused by a relative? Now, there is abuse and defilement that happens for children. And note that I didn't say girls. I said children, because it cuts across gender, this abuse that we are seeing. And unfortunately, that we're looking at between 70 to 80% of those defilement cases are done by a close relative. In this case, father, uncle, aunt,
cousins,
mother. it's rare that a mother, but we do have cases in this country where this happens, and unfortunately in many other places as well. 70% are done by the person that you can trust. So do you imagine what that does to the mind of a child?
You know, as you're saying, 70% by somebody who's close to the family.
Yes.
Out of this 70%, do you know how many are settled still within that setup?
Yep.
The family decides, wazee watakaa chini, wataongea,
Hii ni mambo ya
this story italeta aibu kwa familia. I told you of a case I directly handled in Voi. A mother came to me and said, I want you to help me with this story. The mother came with a 12-year-old girl. The 12-year-old girl was repeatedly defiled by the father. She never saw her first period. And at the time I was talking to her, she was pregnant with the father's child.
God in heaven.
I decided to go and confront this man and record what exactly was going on. Went to Voi, traveled all the way to Voi with the mother in the car. When I got into the compound, that old mzee came out with a panga. The camera person was with Rena. I stood, I said, if you want to kill me right here. If you're man enough, kill me right here. I told him, this is your daughter. She is pregnant with your child. This here is your wife. What are you doing?
Come on.
Reported the case to the police. A few weeks later, to cut a long story short, the mother was told by the elders and some extended family members, hii kitu italeta aibu kwa boma yako. You know how this thing was turned against her? Like you failed as the wife.
So
that's why the man defiled. So the woman dropped the case.
Chukwaju.
In such instances, Okari, can the state move in and take up the matter?
Yes, it can.
Yeah,
it can.
It should.
Yeah, so in such a matter that you reported, I mean, the state should have proceeded with the matter. Just goes to show about the systemic failures that do exist, you know?
This happened several years ago, and I've never forgotten that case. The girl ended up giving birth to the father's child.
So you've delivered your child and your brother or sister.
Yeah.
And your grandchild.
How warped behavior is this? And that's what I'm telling you guys. There is dis-ease. When you think disease, you think it's just, I have a headache and I'm going to take an antibiotic. Disease is the lack of ease. There is something wrong. And these cases that we hear, the ones that come out into the open, the ones that make their way into the newspaper, my friends, are in the minority.
Yeah.
True.
We're going to do a special, and I know that I'm just reminding us about that. We're going to do something like this in a couple of weeks to have this conversation around this nonsense that we're seeing that's happening. But you know why it continues? Is because of the silence.
Yes.
The silence is a place where this thing continues to breed. And if we open it up and make it something that is spoken about, then people have shame. And we will start to see a reduction of this. But we don't talk about it. We hide it. Some things happen. We don't want anybody. We keep it under the covers. But then we have damaged women and men.
Yes.
We have people who are adults today who went through some terrible stuff at the hands of people that they trusted as children. And then we wonder, you guys, make the connection. We wonder today why we have adults who are walking around, whether they're in an office, whether they're in a business, whether they're in government, whether they're leaders. And you ask yourself, what's going on? A lot of these things can be traced back.
Yeah.
And to some extent, I feel we need to bring back, this thing, life sentence. No, this person should be executed.
Yeah.
Men can't get away with this excuse. You know what his father said? Put on defense. The father said, the father claimed that bad blood between him and his estranged wife was the reason he was being framed.
Bad blood.
So, he said, we live in a society where it was not me. No, sikusema, sikufanya. The girl is in hospital. There is evidence, clear evidence from the doctors. And then the man is saying, no, I'm being framed by my estranged wife. We can't get away with these kind of excuses.
You can't.
The moment you execute a few of these men,
And I think that needs to come back, because until when we see heads rolling, these will never go back. They'll never go away, you know. So I think maybe it's about time we started looking
and
at
open it up,
and even look at some of the cultures that we have and just challenge them straight in the head.
And open it up. This thing is very annoying.
It is annoying.
Then you want to say that, what happened under the cover of darkness should not come out. You are damaging children.
Yeah.
You are damaging boys and girls. Do you know how many men today? You guys, this thing is not a joke. Do you know how many men today, unfortunately, and you know, we're trying to be as sensitive as possible, unfortunately have been sexually assaulted and keep quiet with it and grow up. And then we have a lot of times where women are saying, emotional, unintelligent. Do you know what has actually happened to them that a man will never speak about?
True.
This is the thing that we are saying, and we actually cannot continue to keep quiet. We are delivering people who are coming into society today who are damaged.
And expect that they would turn around and sort out the problem. No, we need to say no to such.
We need to bring severe punishment to these things. Like put this, not life sentence, don't put him in prison and feed him. No, these are animals. These are not human beings.
Society? What are they doing in the society? They're destroying the very same society.
No. It's no. Let's give us another story, Dennis.
Okay.
So let's.
you have another story?
Okay, let's talk about this Shah story. Yeah, it is on pages 4 and 5 of. So. The ghosts of the defunct National Health Insurance Fund (NHIF) have returned to haunt Kenya's healthcare system just months after the government launched their Social Health Authority with promises of a fraud-proof digital revolution. 31 hospitals across the country stand accused of systematical defrauding the 104 billion shilling system designed to eliminate the very corruption they are now perpetrating. The revelations announced yesterday by Health Cabinet Secretary Eden Duale represent a devastating blow to the government's credibility and raise fundamental questions about the effectiveness of Kenya's most expensive healthcare reform. The suspended facilities operate across 12 counties. Now, Duale pointed a picture of elaborate deception involving double billing, outpatient claim forms, forced admissions, pre-authorized code abuse, ghost patient admissions, and illegal sharing of patient codes between facilities. Now, how I look at this story is our responsibility as a people in making sure that the systems that have been put in place get to work. Because you look at individuals who've decided that the system is in place, but they will go and make sure that this system does not work for the benefit of the people. It is no longer about the government failing to deliver, but us going inside and fighting the system because we're just corrupt people. I mean, as much as we want to throw shade to the government, I think we need to also just zoom out, as Dennis would say, and look at ourselves, and they need to ensure that such things do not happen, because if we don't fix ourselves, then it will be very difficult for us to say that this healthcare system is really working.
I have a story on this thing, but I will talk about it another day. A very deep thing. This SHA thing. And what hospitals are doing.
Yeah.
You know, SHA, the promise of SHA was around digitization.
Yes.
It was around transparency.
Yeah.
It was around taking advantage of the technological input and output.
Yes.
So the idea here was, you know, NHIF, what used to happen, NHIF directly licensed hospitals and manually processed claims. So now, this created manipulation. Okay? And so what SHA was coming to do, SHA was coming to stop all that. But Wakenya ni nani?
Yes.
Hospitals have become very clever. The rot in this, what's a tool? I'll talk about it another day, not for today.
You know, there's someone was telling me the other day that when you talk about this SHA, the government is paying inpatient, right? So you find everyone who's getting in there on outpatient just gets admitted because SHA is paying for inpatient, even when you don't need to be admitted.
Yeah. So, just in case anybody was wondering, I mean, look, this SHA story, guys, it's another day when we'll definitely look into that a little bit more. Grief as Boniface Karaoke dies after from gunshot injuries after 12 days in ICU. Boniface Mwangi Karaoke, the 22-year-old mask vendor who was shot at point-blank range by a police officer during recent anti-police brutality protests, has died. According to his father, John Karaoke, he died on Monday at 3:15, a day after medics at the Kenyatta National Hospital had declared him brain dead on Sunday and were waiting for the doctors to declare his death. According to the family spokesman, in this case woman, Emily Wanjira, we are saddened as a family to see such a young man's life was cut short while trying to earn a living for himself. The family now hopes the officer who shot their kin will be charged with murder. I wonder, is the investigation still ongoing? Have you not pieced together the evidence? You know, is an inquest going on? What's going on? And now that he's no longer with us, we are seeking justice for our son, she said. According to Wanjira, the family has not been allowed to record a statement since the shooting. We have been to Central Police Station. They sent us to DCI homicide, but even there we were not allowed to record a statement. On Sunday, the doctors had declared him brain dead, with his family raising doubts on their kin's condition since his admission. The conditions were not improving since he was put on the life support machine. We feel that they were taking us in circles, according to Karaoke's uncle. He was in the same condition we left him in on Sunday. He was shot on the 17th of June while selling face masks in Nairobi Central Business District during protests demanding justice for the death of teacher and blogger Albert Ojwang, who died in police custody. So my question is simple. Remember what the DCI said yesterday? 480, how many, Kiniko?
85.
Thanks. These people have all been arrested, and they're being charged with various crimes. This man was shot in the full glare of the country. He's dead. You know the person who shot him. You saw what happened as the rest of the country did. That was murder. Why is nobody in the docks? Crickets?
Well, they were arrested. They were suspended. We saw that. There are lawyers who came out to defend them, and the first argument was what was used was a rubber bullet. Which was clearly by evidence of what had happened during the surgery. It was a rubber bullet.
The rubber bullet killed the man.
So they are currently in custody. They're pending further investigations. And you know how the legal proceedings in this country, how long they take. So it's going to take a while, despite the fact that you have video evidence from multiple angles
what I'm saying.
Showing what exactly had happened. So Baraza Masinde and Constable Dan Kiprono
are in custody.
They are in custody, yes. They were interdicted. We know that so far. They were processed, but their current status, investigations are still going on.
Okay, so then in this case, are we say essentially? So what Wanjira is saying that they've not been able to record a statement, and this, and I think it's also interesting to note here that the DCI boss said yesterday, in relation to what former spokesman Charles Owino was saying, according to the reasons why, or the justifiable, according to him, reasons why Boniface was shot and killed. The DCI boss said those are his opinions. That is not the position of the National Police Service. But if he's speaking as himself. So it got everybody riled up, essentially, that there would be reason as to why he was shot in the manner in which he was.
You know, the troubling thing with what we see today is you have so many people talking. You see, as spokesperson, you don't represent your own opinions at that level. It's almost like taking an ambassadorial position. You may have an opinion over something, over a situation, but you can't make any comments because they are your opinions. Because anything you say is regarded as an official position of the institution that you represent. So what troubles me is you have different spokespersons saying all manner of things.
Contradict each other.
So from State House you've won, then you've got then you've got government spokesperson, you've got everybody talks. So you've got PSS, you've got CSS talking, you've got Inspector General Police will say something, the DCI boss will say something else. You've got all multiple everybody is talking. So it's not clear at one. It's not clear. Okay, so which position do we take? Do we go the DCI position or do we go the Wino position? We know that's his opinion, but we need to stop this. Somebody needs to make this stop. Absolutely. And I think the only person who can do this is the buck still stops with the president. It's like, put the house in order. Nobody speaks. This is the appointed person who can speak on anything to do with what's happening within the security sector. If it's a spokesperson, make official statements. But these things of going to the side and saying, I think this is what happened. He said something to the police officers. Just to clarify, they will remain in custody until at least July 3rd.
Which is 2 days from now.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's see. And speaking of positioning, PLO will be in the hot seat at 7. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. President William Ruto attended the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in Seville on Monday as part of his official visit to Spain. The conference brought together global leaders to craft new principles for financing sustainable development. President Ruto emphasized his administration's commitment to making Kenya a leader in renewable energy in Africa.
Kenya will have 100% of its grid as renewable by 2030 because we have innovative financing using power purchase agreement to bring the public and the private into one ecosystem, and we are funding our green energy generation using private funds and working with public interventions.
Ruto also held bilateral talks with world leaders, including his Polish counterpart Andrzej Duda, His Majesty King Felipe VI of Spain, and Germany's Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development, Rim Alabali Radovan. In a statement on X, Ruto said he reaffirmed his administration's commitment to positioning Kenya as an attractive investment destination for German investors. He announced that His Majesty affirmed Spain's commitment to supporting regional peace initiatives, strengthening multilateralism, and advancing reforms of the international financial architecture. The family of Boniface Mwangi Kariuki, the mask vendor who died on Monday, days after he was shot by police during Justice for Albert Ojwang protests in Nairobi, is crying for justice. His father, John Kariuki, told journalists that he died at 3 p.m, a day after medics at Kenyatta National Hospital declared him brain dead. The family hopes the officer who shot the 22-year-old will be charged with murder.
Boni hakuwa na ubaya na mtu yeyote, hakuwa na tusi mtu. Tunataka haki ya Boni ionekane.
Sisi tutasema tumemwachia Mungu tu. Hii machozi tunalia hata kwake. Sijui tuseme aje. It is very bad. Tumejua mmesimama na sisi. Hata saa hii msimame na sisi tu. Sababu hatuna njia, hatuna mwelekeo, tunashida ni wapi? Tuko confused. Totally confused.
Meanwhile, the government has waived Kariuki's hospital bail, running to 815,805 shillings at the time of his demise. CS Aden Duale directed Kenyatta National Hospital to waive the bills accrued by patients who were victims of protests on June the 17th and the 25th. The Ministry of Health has deployed 6,484 trainee doctors to hospitals across the country in a bid to boost service delivery. Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale said the move will help strengthen the performance of the health sector.
Each one of you will take your letter. It is different from when individually were coming to pick their letter under the table. Chini ya maji. There used to be ghost interns. The way we had many ghost UHC, now I'm being forced. I want to deal with the genuine people. I need to protect public resources. Integrity is very rare in our country. We must instill integrity.
At the same time, Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union Secretary General Davji Atela confirmed the doctors were recruited under the 2017 collective bargaining agreement, making it the largest intake of trainees in Kenya's history.
First time in the history, by the way, to have more than 1,700 doctors posted to the hospitals. So this is a big landmark and it's an indication that these doctors will go there motivated because they're going to be paid as per the CBA that was signed in 2017. That their dignity has been preserved. That we can actually say that they'll be offering services to the hospitals. And it's what we all need.
Donald Trump's move to cut most of the U.S. funding towards foreign humanitarian aid could cause more than 14 million additional deaths by 2030, according to research published in the Lancet Medical Journal on Monday. The research says a third of those at risk of premature deaths are children. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in March that the Trump administration had cancelled over 80% of all programs at the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID. For many low and middle-income countries, the resulting shock would be comparable in scale to a global pandemic or a major armed conflict. David Drasella, who co-authored the Lancet report, said in a statement. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Traffic.
It is a really busy morning wherever you look at it on the streets today. Getting into the city from the Thika Superhighway is not going to be an easy one. There's a lot of traffic coming in all the way from that Roiro interchange, and it takes you then through towards Githurai, out towards Kasarani, and then on to Survey. Busy also coming off of Kiamburo this morning. And then there's traffic coming in from Outer Ring. It's bumper to bumper all the way through, coming in towards the Thika Superhighway. So that is very, very busy right now. And then also looking in from the Eastern Bypass, traffic is starting to build up. Everybody's going back to school today, and so that's where we see all this drama that's happening right around Landis Road going towards Haile Selassie. It's busy as folks are around the bus station. That's going to do the thing for a couple of days. Also, as you come off of Langata Road, we're seeing a little bit of traffic coming in from the Uhuru Gardens interchange, but after that I think that we're still seeing the early beginnings of what will be a busy morning. Well, we're here for it. Let's know what's going on. Talk to us about what's happening in your neck of the woods. We'll keep things moving. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's the 1st of July, wherever it is that you're tuned in into The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning to you. Our live streams are on YouTube, Facebook, and on X, and we are on KTN. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. We're getting into a conversation where we're at a crossroads and we're asking, what does the future look like? And our guest is in the hot seat this morning. Professor PLO Lumumba is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and Tanganyika. That's another one that's no mean feat. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm very well.
You know, I'm going to ask a question on behalf of everybody.
Please do.
So we know that there was Patrice Lumumba. So everybody wants to know what PLO all stands for.
Patrick Lodge Otieno Lumumba.
Thanks. I Lodge.
Victory.
It sounds like something that must be accompanied by a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Lodge's victory.
Yes, it did.
I have done the world a favor. So there you go. Now everybody knows.
Yes, indeed.
Karibu sana, Prof.
Asante sana.
No sooner than had you been here last time when we were talking about the direction in which we ought to go and the position that leaders ought to take and the birthright that Kenyans need to hold on to and that live that out with fear and trembling, things seem to have spiraled out of control. And we're at a crossroads, many would say. And what are we going to do to take the step? In which direction should we go? That forms the basis of our conversation today. But before we do, Dennis is going to take you to Burundi. And we'd like your interpretation of the proverb that he was sharing.
So Burundi recently changed its capital from Bujumbura to Gitega. Yes. And one of the things that stands out with Burundi is how it is such a small country with so much wealth, yet considered one of the poorest countries. And one would only hope that now that it's in the East African region, the bloc would move together and see that all these economies get to grow together. And its economy is largely dependent on subsistence agriculture. Main crops include coffee, tea, maize, and bananas. But our proverb from this great country is, you cannot hide smoke if there is fire.
And that is the truth. And of course, you've got to contextualize it within the meaning and the history of Rwanda and Burundi. In other words, the truth can never be hidden. It will manifest itself whether you like it or not.
It will not be hidden. It might take some time as well.
Oh yeah, you may try all you want, but ultimately it rears its head, whether ugly or not.
You know, Prof, we often want to be prescriptive about things, and we say, well, this is where there is disease, and what can we apply to it to make it feel a little bit better and get to the place where there is healing. And even as we may do that today, it would be good to hear your insights, or it would be good to have your understanding of what we see happening in the country at the moment. We're hearing cries, we're seeing a lot of tears, we're hearing a lot of agony, we're hearing still in the midst of that a lot of hope. Where do you see that we are at? Many would call it a crossroads.
You know, as I thought about this conversation, several things came to my mind. Our country is between the devil and the deep blue sea. Our country is between the hammer and the anvil. Our country, if I go to Greece, is between the Scylla and the Charybdis. We are in a bad place. I've been around, and I can tell you that this is perhaps the worst. I was around in the 70s, I was around in the 80s, I was fairly active in the 1990s and late 1980s. And for the first time in the history of this country, we are in a situation where we are moving consistently in the wrong direction. When we were making the Constitution in the year 2010, and prior to that, when we started under the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission to correct the people's views, we thought that a new constitution and a new constitutional dispensation would help this country. We have tried to apply the antidotes that are to be found in the Constitution, but new and bigger wounds are appearing. We thought that we would eliminate political mobilization on the basis of negative ethnicity. It is alive and well. We thought that we would eliminate corruption in our politics and the politics of money and money bags would disappear. It is alive and well. We thought that we would eliminate arrogance in the hearts and minds of the political class. It is alive and well. We thought that changing the names of our forces, the police force, into a service will change how it relates to the people. It is worse now. We thought that people would be judged by the content of their character, but now it is the size of people's anatomy. Testicles is what politicians are telling us, whether they are the size of the elephant or the rabbit. We are in a bad place. But yet we cannot afford the luxury of losing hope. There is a sense in which all of us have sinned and fallen short of the expectations of this country. But the biggest sinners are the political class, across the political divide. And there is nothing new when I see a country that has elections 2 years away, and on a daily basis, every weekend, politicians are on top of motor vehicles seeking to be presidents. The new game in town are people who want to be the president, who want to be the president of the Republic of Kenya. It is good to be ambitious. But what do we want to become presidents of? We must fix our nation first. Look at the way we drive. It is a statement of who we are. No discipline. Impunity has taken charge of our country. Look at how we behave even when we are in buildings in lifts. Look at the language that we use in the National Assembly. Look at the language that we use in public rallies. Look at the vitriol of an ethnic nature that spews out of people who describe themselves as national leaders. Look at the impunity, how young men can be extracted from their homes and be murdered, and we are not angry. And even when we are angry, our political class don't appear to see it, giving meaning to this, that when God wants to destroy a country, it makes its leaders impervious to reason. And then they begin to believe that they have the monopoly of knowledge and wisdom. That is the space in which we are. On 26th, I scouted around the headlines all over the world. Almost 110 countries had Kenya on their headlines. With the consequence that if you are a tourist, you are cancelling your visit to Kenya. That if you are an investor, you are cancelling your investment plans in Kenya. If you are a young man, you are losing hope in Kenya. And yet our politicians are effectively saying that if the men and women who love this country come out to express their dissatisfaction, shoot them on sight.
Yeah.
That is where we are. But we cannot give up.
Professor, is it the crisis we currently see in the country, is it due to system failure? Is it a question of moral character? Is it spiritual bankruptcy? What is it?
It is a combination of all those. Let's start with spirituality. We are Christians, we are Muslims, we are Hindus, we are African spiritualists, but we say with our mouth what we do not believe in our hearts. We condemn corruption and we participate in it. We pray on a daily basis. Kenya is one of the few countries that when you go into a public meeting or a private meeting, we start with prayers. But do we believe it? No, we don't. Look at the moral bankruptcy. Look at what is happening. The commission that was appointed by the president to deal with the question of gender-based violence, the members said they are traumatized because of what they listened to. We need to morally rearm. Systems failures. I personally have sent clips of people who are saying that ethnic group should rise against ethnic group to the National Commission on Cohesion. What they receive is a slap on the wrist. We see governors who have stolen in the billions, and yet only half of it is taken. Impunity is now running roughshod in our country. So the systems have failed. We made unto ourselves a constitution and we thought that that constitution would cure us. I remember one of the things that we said, we are no longer going to have people going to State House to ask for this thing called development. Today, I see people from my part of the world going to the State House and they say, we have come out with development as if it were confetti to be issued by one individual. My brother, it is a combination of all those things. The beauty of it is that we have made a diagnosis, which means that we can find an antidote. The question is, are we ready to bear? Because it may be painful before it becomes better.
Prof, we talk about the Constitution of Kenya 2010, a beautiful document that we have. And with all the hope that came with this document, one would have seen Kenya become this great country to be in. But the political class has let us down with regard to the implementation, and even us as the citizenry have failed because we have played ball with the politicians. And we come to talk about the political goodwill to change things, the political goodwill to implement the constitution, because Kenya has to be run under the rule of law. But look at those with the responsibility to protect and defend this document are the ones failing while at it. Which way Kenya, Prof?
You know, I was very intimately involved in the constitution making process, and I dare say I'm the only one who has written a book that gives you a blow-by-blow account on what happened. And all these individuals that you now see who are running this country and who are in the opposition and in the government, I was with them. And I have the attendance list of all of them. Some of them did not even spend a quarter of the time listening to what we were doing. I can tell you that one of the mistakes that we made was to have people who did not believe in the Constitution as the implementers of the Constitution. And in their hearts and minds, they simply want to undo what was prescribed in the Constitution. Remember that the very first Constitution that we came up with in 2005 was rejected at a referendum, and then we went through the 2007-2008 clashes. Then we made the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which borrows very heavily from the Boma's draft. But these individuals, you know, you cannot have people who have no faith in a document as the ones who engaged in implementing it, so that the culture has not changed. You know, one of the things that this country must grapple with at a certain stage, however painful it is, that we may consider having a transitional government which brings people who will only serve for the purpose of midwifing a new dispensation. Look at the opposition. Some of the individuals who are in the opposition were in the opposition when I was still a student at the university. I'm now past retirement age. And they tell us that they are God's gift to Kenya. No, they simply want to fulfill the ambition that they want to be president or minister and that. And this is painful because Kenya has not known real change in terms of political culture. And it is the culture that we must change. The culture where people believe that occupation of public office is service, that you are trustees for the people. What we have are individuals who think that they are lords of the people. This is why we have what are called ethnic kingpins, who tell you, we have read the Constitution, read it not, because we have read it.
How do you change culture? Because I think about it, right? It's everything that we do. You're accustomed to it on a daily basis. You breathe it, you live it, you eat it, you dress it. You are in it. That's what culture is.
Indeed.
Over time, it's compounded, it's compacted. How do you unlearn it?
You know, what you now see in Kenya in the last 1 year with these young people called the Gen Zs, this is the beginning of culture change. A little more organization, a little more focus, then it will be unstoppable, because they are saying we cannot continue doing things in the same way and expect different results. Some of them I saw rejecting bribes of 100 from a politician. Yesterday, the 30th day of June, somewhere in Central Province, I saw them telling a senator, we will not allow this to happen. They are beginning to say, we will not be bribed. They are beginning to say, we enjoy our cultural diversity, but we are not going to be mobilized on the basis of ethnicity. They are beginning to tell the politicians, you must be accountable. They are beginning to say that our taxes are meant to be for our benefit. They are beginning to say that you are our servant. They are beginning to say that you must do what is in our best interest. I saw some of them debating with the policemen, telling them, we are on the same side. You suffer the same way we do. Culture is beginning to change. It is old culture, old habits can only be driven out by new habits. That is the history and the lesson of history at once. It may take time. It may not be as dramatic as we want because there'll be pushback. You hear the politician, for example, saying, but you want us to go. Where do we go? But I tell them, it is your duty to ask yourself, if you allow me a little heresy, Why is it that the same crowd that sang Hosanna in the highest 2 years ago is the same crowd that is saying crucify him?
Yeah.
It is your duty to ask that question.
It's a modern day Kenyan situation. It is.
And it is a time for reflection. And one of the things that I hope will happen, and I'm one who is in the business of writing, in 2023, I wrote to the president, I wrote to the kind of Mr. Odinga, and told them exactly what is happening. On the 23rd day of June, I wrote to the Inspector General of Police and to the minister in charge, for the time being in charge of internal security, saying, let the police guard the demonstrators. They did for us in 1990s. And when you do so, they'll give you the routes. The young men in Mombasa actually gave routes and the time. But what happened? We saw chaos, manufactured chaos. Of course, the jury is still out as to who manufactured it, but manufactured. And that is arrogance. And there is nothing that is worse than arrogance. The Greeks used to say, call it hubris, and it has an antidote. Nemesis. And what we are now beginning to see is nemesis. But we cannot afford the luxury of being spectators, because when your house is on fire, you don't run after rats that are coming out of it. You put off the fire. Our house is on fire. A country that was respected in this region is losing its respect. A country that was respected is surrendering to goons a la Haiti. Somebody even asked, when we went to Haiti, were we on a benchmarking mission so that we would import the habits of the Duvaliers, Papa Doc and Baby Doc? It may be painful when we pose this question, but we do so because we love this country.
Prof, at what cost? You've traversed the continent. You have seen this kind of revolts, movements emerging, and we're seeing pockets of it across the continent. The human cost to this, every day there's a mother crying. We've never seen, like you rightly put it, we've never seen a moment in the history of this country where constantly you're trying to look for good news, you can't find it anywhere. And it's young people, this same Gen Zs, it's the young people who are being murdered, who are being abducted. Right now, the Yangui is still missing. Nobody's taking responsibility for it. Boniface Karaoke died in hospital, shot at close range. People are asking for justice. So there is blood on the soil. So with what you've seen, this pattern, I'm sure you've seen it across other parts of the continent, this pattern, how long can this go? Because we're seeing the human cost of it. There is blood being spilled almost on a daily basis. How far can it go before we can get into a reset mode, so to speak?
You know, my brother and my sister, we have seen this happen before, and it's our duty to learn from history and to shorten our journey towards resolution. We saw the Tahrir Square, which brought the Arab Spring and what it did in Tunisia, what it did with Libya, which is still under the situation that it is in, what it did in Egypt, what it did in Syria. My own suggestion is that those who have the honor and privilege of sitting in political office are the ones who can shorten it in an orderly manner so that it is not disorderly. And one of the things that is in my mind, if I were the president of Kenya today, I would call a serious national and serious urgent national dialogue, not NADCO, which is meant to serve the political class. In my meeting, I would have the entire political class. In my meeting, I would have the entire religious fraternity. In my meeting, I would have the entire leadership of different communities. In my leadership, in my meeting, I would have academics. In my meeting, I would have young people. I would have women's organization. I would even have the disciplined forces to discuss only one agenda item. With a Kenya Where are we going and what can we do to resolve the crisis in Kenya? And I hope that the president will have the moral courage to do so before the next declared demonstration day, which is on the 7th. A leader who listens and does what he himself may not like but is necessary is a servant leader. Because we are now creating a culture where demonstrations which are interrupted is becoming de rigueur. And the situation is this. If you allow people to exercise their constitutional right and to have petitions, it will be orderly. But the tragedy is that the political players are in a competition because they are campaigning already. That is why you see people crisscrossing the country and saying they are going to solve the problems of Kenya when they become the president. They will not. The problem is now so deeply seated. It is now so cancerous that not one person at the top will resolve it. So let us, my brother, resolve the issue, shorten it, and I hope that the political leadership will do it. There are people who are respectable in all these sectors, and they must be listened to. It pains me when I listen to some of the politicians, and some of them were my students, saying in response to the clergymen that you are wrong. The clergymen, when I listen to my good friend Archbishop Muheria, he loves this country.
Prof. We live at a time when the country is yearning for change. Look at across all corners, and all that everyone wants is change. You listen to the young people, and the agenda the young people are pushing is we want accountability, we want proper use of the funds that we toiled so hard to pay for. Yet we are as well in a political class that does not want to listen. This is our way, this is what we know to do, and this is how we continue to push it. And the young people are saying, we don't care. The country must change. But that is met with force, with death, with abductions, and a lot of pain. And as we sit here, Prof, the country needs that national dialogue. But one would say it has been called for a very long time, but no one wants that dialogue.
I hope that this time round, there was a day not too long ago when the President of the Republic of Kenya apologized. And I thought that one of the things that would emanate from that apology was structured national reconciliation. What I've seen subsequently is the hardening of positions. What I've seen subsequently within the political class is alignment on the basis of formations. Formations where people are saying in the 21st century that we are Nilots, that we are Bantus, and that political contestation in the year 27 is going to be on those formations. It is tragic. In the 21st century, when we also say we want to be part of a larger East Africa, part of an Africa, we are going to primordial instincts. The time is now for the politicians to listen. And I hope they will. And sometimes people are made to listen through repetition. I look forward to the day when all the newspapers in the country will produce a newspaper with nothing in it except one item on the agenda at the very headline. Let us reason together. I look forward to that day, if that is what is going to take, because it will take something very dramatic. If you believe and read the story in the Bible about the Pharaoh, every time that God wanted to make him release his people, let my people go, his heart would be hardened. I hope that the latter day pharaohs in our country will not harden their hearts for the sake of this country, for the sake of their children and children's children. They owe it to us, and we too owe it to ourselves. It is Thomas Joseph Mboya who said in 1967, when he was talking about Kenya and people were complaining that Kenya, who will build Kenya? He said, there are no supermen that are going to come to Kenya to build her. We are the supermen and superwomen. We must play our part.
Can we see parts of this wheel, cogs in the wheel, and we see several things happening, that the way in which we report or talk about things has changed significantly, that there is a different kind of technology which we use for passing along messages, and that lobbying and protesting is one age-old traditional way of getting a message across. Do you see that the employ of different of these mechanisms will actually make a difference? And I ask this in direct connection with the protests that we have seen and those that we are likely to see coming in the future. Are they actual tools that can be used, that can bring about some kind of change?
You know, when to answer your question, first of all, when I saw during the demonstrations on the 25th, the gentleman who is in charge of communication saying that media houses are banned from airing the proceedings real time, I said he must be living in a totally different century, because those are old tactics that used to work in the 1960s. In fact, the real protest in this country is to be found in the social media. What you see in the streets is just a dramatization of it that is necessary to have boots on the ground, in a manner of speaking. And the revolution that are taking place are now taking place in the Instagram, in Twitter, in Signal, and in those spaces, because you capture people in the millions. And in my view, therefore, the style and methods of protestation have changed dramatically, but old is gold. The reason why old is gold is because when you appear flesh and blood, the message is totally different. When I saw a little girl doing the pole vault to cross the razor wires, that image is throughout the world. It is without precedent. And I want to imagine to myself when the politicians are sitting in the inner recesses of their sanctums, when they see those images, does it touch their hearts?
Do you reckon it does?
From the evidence I see, at least the faces that we see in the media, it appears that they are unmoved and untouched. And I look forward to the day when they are moved and untouched. You know, I remember in the 1980s and 1990s, even when Daniel Moi was desperate to remain in power, when the Catholic Church issued a pastoral paper accompanied by the Protestants and the Muslims and the Hindus, the next thing you would see is Maurice Cardinal Otunga and Njue at State House, and the president would suddenly change. That is how the Saitoti Commission came in 1988. That is how President Moi at Kasarani, against all odds, told the people, no, Section 2A must go. In other words, he knew when to stop, when the country was under threat.
Right.
A good leader, or one that is capable of reading the mood of the nation, must be able to say, this is the direction that I want to take, but I can no longer take it.
But Prof, the clergy has gone to State House quite a number of times. Many times, if you look at the history of all the presidents and the visits they get from religious leaders, the president had several opportunities to make things right. When he called for press briefing, dissolved the cabinet, when he talked about austerity measures, when he joined the experts to have conversations with the young people there, it almost gave that semblance that maybe he's ready to listen. By the evidence, it's clearly he didn't listen. But is the church complicit? Because the church back then was so powerful in the decisions they would make. And allow me to also ask this, because at one moment you got a bit emotional when you were talking about Bishop Muheria and his love for the country. And you took a pause there. What was going on in your mind? And when you look at the way people are trying to reach out, but there is a block. Religious leaders who love this country, there are those who indeed love this country, have tried to speak, but their voices are drowned by all the noise around. When you speak from your heart, because I saw you take a pause there when you mentioned Bishop Muheria and his love for the country. What is this about the church, and is the church complicit in this case?
There is the danger in Kenya of always confusing the religious community with Christianity. I go beyond that, because they are Muslim brethren, they are Hindu brethren, they are even African spiritualists. But when you talk about the clergy in Kenya today, there is the clergy and the clergy. There is a segment of the clergy who are transactional. Let's be blunt about it. They are transactional, and they simply want to have dalliance with political power for the sake of personal benefit and influence. Then there are those who, their faults notwithstanding, love this country, and they are to be found. People, as I've already talked about Bishop Muheria, I know the moderator of the Presbyterian Church, I know the head of the Anglican Church, the head of the SDA. These are individuals who don't speak often, but when they do, because they have a clergy, they have a congregation that us. Remember, the church is us. If we are Christians, the Islamic Ummah is not the imams. So my own view is that it is those clergy, and some of them have been shut out from these spaces, and they are the ones who are vilified when they speak the truth. The president, during that short period, that is in June of the year 2024, appeared to have known that there was something happening. But he very quickly backpedaled, because in his reconstitution of the cabinet, the people that we thought would go are the very same that would come. So it became musical chairs. And ultimately, therefore, there was a need for the change to be pushed a little further. But one of the things that I've noticed in this country is the assumption on the part of the politicians that Kenyans are stupid, and that we have the memory of a warthog, and that what we say today we will not remember tomorrow. And for that reason, they know that, or they think that we will not remember. And they also think that we can be mobilized ethnically. I listen, I take care, and listen to some of the things that are said by politicians in their mother tongue. It is sad. Forget this podium position that they take when they come to Nairobi. It is toxic what they say in their mother tongue across the country. And the president has a duty which is constitutional, which is given to him by dint of the office that he occupies. It is Nyerere who said it very well. And he said it in Kiswahili, and I'm going to say it in Kiswahili. Ikulu ni mahali patakatifu. Usiligeuze kuwa pango la walanguzi. Says the State House is a holy place. Don't convert it into a den of thieves and ne'er-do-wellers. This is the time when the President of the Republic of Kenya should jettison some of the old people that are around him and ask, when the history of Kenya is written, it will be said it was during your watch. All these hangers-on, historians will not remember. Historians will only remember William Samoei Ruto. And the question is, how does William Samoei Ruto want to be remembered?
He does feel, and this is interesting that you ask this, how will he be remembered when he has had opportunity to speak and to address some of these issues that are being brought to the fore? He has said many times that he believes that he's tightening the screws and that he is making good decisions for the country, whether those be economic decisions, whether these be social justice issues, decisions around those, administrative issues. He believes that the decisions that he's making or the things that he's doing, he's tightening the screws to get this vehicle moving right.
My sister,
do you believe that he actually believes
it is
that
not
what he's
all
doing
doom
is
and
right?
gloom?
There
It is
we
all
go.
not all doom and gloom. I think there are certain things that are happening that we may not see the results immediately, and they may, in the fullness of time, actually yield the desired fruits. But remember, you are dealing with an impatient crowd, the crowd that was promised heaven, and you are not delivering it. And give me this analogy. It is something that Martin Luther King Jr. said in 1966. He said, there was a day I went into a meeting and I was fighting for African America, and for the first time I was booed. And when I went, I was angry. I said, but I'm fighting for these people. I'm sacrificing my life and exposing my family to danger. They booed me. And he said, I reflected. And after careful reflection, I asked, is it me who was the cause? Is it me who did something in a manner that justified the booing? And he said, yes, I discovered it was me. Because I discovered that I thought that I was the only one who had all knowledge. I discovered that I'm the only one who had all the solution. From that day on, I knew that we must work together. And the president must work together with us. In other words, he is the first amongst equals, but he must look back occasionally to ask, what are the people I'm leading saying? Even when I think I'm doing the right thing, I'm telling them, I'm offering them ugali, but they are saying they want chapati. Let us reason together and think and ask, what is it? As one person once said, I think it is Arthur Koestler in his book Darkness at Noon, he said, when people agree to combine their brigades to put out fire, before they go out, they must ask, which is the ingredient that will put fire? Is it water or oil? Otherwise, that union will bring chaos. I think our house is on fire, and we must determine, is it oil or water that we are going to use to bring down the fire? That is the duty that the president has at this stage in the history of our country.
Prof, as we have this discussion in terms of the dialogue and all these that need to happen, there is also the aspect that justice has to be delivered to Kenyans. Yes. We cannot have this discussion and not right the wrong that was done. And with that then comes the bodies that are in charge with ensuring that justice is dispensed, starting from the office of the president. Talk about the entire justice system. They all have to play ball. But then again, there is the conversation that orders come from the above, that the stumbling block again is the president. But how should these bodies that are independent move in assuring Kenyans that justice will be delivered?
The question of superior order is something that has been discussed. It's the duty of an individual to disobey orders that are unlawful, because it will be personal responsibility. One of the greatest claims to fame of the second president of Tanzania, Ali Hassan Mwinyi, was that when he was a minister in charge of prisons, and there was a prison escape, he resigned as a minister. It worked in his favor. Later, when it was being said that he's the one who is fit to be the president. In other words, sometimes you leave because you take moral responsibility. It is not criminal culpability. The culture that we have in Kenya, it's over my dead body. I will not resign. If you look at all institutions, there is a crisis. You know, it worries me when I see the police service having a relationship that is so toxic with the population. The policing force should be friends of the people. In countries where you have good policing system like Japan, they say that the police officers and police men and women are like Boy Scouts and Girl Guides. We should now ask, what is it that we are not doing right? Because Kenyan police training, believe me, is one of the best in Africa. People come to Kenya to train their police officers. What is happening? When you come to our legal profession, if you look at our courts, we have some of the best legal minds. Why is it that we have lost faith in that segment? The DCI, our intelligence, is one of the best in Africa. But something is just not right. It is culture. It is culture from the top. It starts from the top. That is the history of the world. Because once the top signals, then the rest are likely to follow the cue. Look at during the administration of President Mwai Kibaki. You didn't see people going to State House. No, you didn't see Harambes. You didn't see President Kibaki running around the country almost on a constant campaign. And I know he was operating under a new constitutional dispensation, but there was a sense in which the civil service was orderly. But look at what is happening now. The people who are actually doing work, look at the controller of budget, whose office is doing good work. She's the one who is being targeted for vilification. The Auditor General, who is doing good work, they are the ones who are being targeted for vilification. The EACC, which is trying in very difficult circumstances, is the one that is being targeted for vilification. Once again, my brother, it is culture. And let me tell you, 80% of us Kenyans just want to do the right thing. We don't want to own cars. We don't want television. We just want a situation where we have food, we can buy it at affordable prices. When our children graduate, they can go to get opportunities to innovate and invent. We want to be secure so that we don't have to hire watchmen. We want our bills to be paid. When we trade with government and governmental institutions, we want to be paid on time. That is what we want. And it can happen if we do the right things. But if we become defensive, immediately and always when you become defensive, you now become impervious to reason. You now create enemies that don't exist, and you imagine enemies. Even those who mean well for you, you think they are your enemies. Take, for example, the Standard. I love your headlines. You have removed the velvet glove. You are now punching with iron fists. And it is necessary that we are told the truth, that this is a spade, not a big spoon. The country needs it. The country needs it to hear the unpalatable. Because if we are conscientious, then we'll begin to change.
Prof, it's often said that change will then come about when something breaks, right? In order for something to break, it has to get to that last thread where then, it is going to snap. And unfortunately, the greatest change comes about at a time like that. Usually those who've not seen or those who've been, seeing enough then have said, well, let's make a change before we get to the place where it snaps. But it does seem as though, things would snap first before changes. Do you think that the population of the country has seen that we're at an almost snap position for this thing that you're speaking about, where there must be a culture change? It's not just with leadership, with everybody who's in the country. Correct. Have people gotten to that point where things are uncomfortable enough? I've been in situations where conflict have overtaken a nation. You don't want to get there.
In fact, I've seen some people even suggesting so that let it break. No, I don't belong to that school. I belong to the school that tells me that history should teach us to avoid certain paths. Because when you allow it to break, rebuilding it can take generations.
Absolutely.
See Libya, post-Gaddafi. See Somalia, how it's difficult to repair it.
Well, look at Sierra Leone and Liberia, and they've been in, peace for decades.
Afghanistan, see Haiti after the Duvaliers.
Look at Sudan.
Look at Sudan.
Yeah.
And we can give example after example. If we are good students of history, I think Kenya has demonstrated not once, not twice, times without number, that we are capable of stepping back. We stepped back in 1969 when the country was at crossroads and there was oathing. We stepped back and we came back. In the year 1982, when we had an attempted coup d'etat, we stepped back Then we had a crisis in 1988, we stepped back. In 1992, we stepped back. In 2007 and 2008, we stepped back. Let it not be that we are allowing our cup of iniquity to get full. Let us step back now. And let us step back so that we ask ourselves difficult questions and get answers which may not make all of us happy. We have the ability to do it, and we must do it, because if we don't do it, then we could be in the mouth of a monster. We can avoid it, and we have the capacity to avoid it. And this is why all these noises around, all the noises that are irritating the political leadership are noises of patriotism. They are telling the political leadership, we must stop it before we go to the tipping point. When you see razor wires being thrown around the State House in your national capital, being thrown around the Parliament, these are institutions that mihimili ya taifa, as they say Kiswahili. These are the anchor institution. When the political leadership now fears the population, then it's a time to step back. My stepping back is dialogue, serious dialogue, not BBI, not NADCO. Those are self-serving, short-termist political stratagems. It's real dialogue.
But Prof, people are saying enough is enough. We've had these dialogue conversations and they only end up benefiting a few, or the few take advantage of the cry for dialogue to sit at the table and share with each other the loot, so to speak. And so people are saying enough is enough. We've had so many chances to have this dialogue. Nobody is listening. The politicians are not showing the willingness to listen. The classic example we've just given. We've never seen, I've been a journalist 20 years, I've never seen any single day I saw those kind of razor wires. Not just in the capital, in Kenya.
Yes.
I only saw them in Somalia, in Jubaland many years ago. And so we are seeing new things coming up. We've never seen military vehicles moving into a capital during a protest like this. It's been a long time. My question is, when you look at 2027, let's just now look at 2027, what do you see as the theme around the election of 2027? If you look back, multipartism, it was just to get rid of Daniel Moi, because it was a one-party rule. It ruled for many years. Then we got into, we want economic empowerment. In came Mwai Kibaki Tosha. Then it got to Uhuru and Ruto. Then we had the classic theme of it's hustlers versus dynasties. Now, 2027, what do you see as the theme around the election?
You know, if we go into the elections in 2027 with the kind of rhetoric that I see, Nilots versus Bantus, this tribe against this tribe, then our country is in danger. We must not go. Only a few days ago, the High Court of Kenya ruled, I think it is the High Court that ruled that premature campaigns are not in the best interest of the country. We must stop the campaigns. And we must continue to build Kenya and campaign during the declared legal campaign periods. Number two, one of the things why we said we were giving political parties money is that they would be ideologically anchored, not to have these ethnic enclaves. Unfortunately, the gulf between the reality and what I'm saying is widening by the day. So knowing as we do that the path we are taking is a dangerous path, what must we do if we don't want to collapse as a country? Is to change and to do things differently. And the beauty is this. This is why I think dialogue can work for the better this time round. You now see a new generation A new generation that you are not going to impress by saying that I was beaten in the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s. They are going to tell you, yes, you made your contribution. History will record and immortalize that. But we are looking to the future. We are not going to drive using the rear view mirror. We want to look to the future. They will demand, and some of these individuals who have been in the political space for a very long time must now choose to leave the political space. I want you to listen to the statement that was given by Mpango, who has been the vice president of the United Republic of Tanzania. He's in his 60s, and he said, I am no longer seeking any public office. I want to retire. I have served Tanzania in this and this and that space. I have made my contribution. I want to hear some of these individuals who have served in senior positions saying, I have made my contribution. You must, not all of us can be presidents. This obsession that the new game in town is to announce that you become the president is bad, is a bad disease. Because when you want to be president, so what? You can serve your country. Some of the greatest men that I know and women that I know never occupied any public office. What office did Luther King occupy? What office did Mahatma Gandhi occupy? You can be a moral leader influencing processes without occupying office. We must exorcise the ghosts that want us to massage our egos. The day we do that, we'll have a serious national dialogue. But we must constantly remind ourselves that we have had this before. What are we doing differently? Or we are merely having a dialogue to cool the situation. The dialogues we have had, unfortunately, and you are right in this regard, has been to cool the situation. And when things cool, we go back to our old ways. I was telling somebody yesterday when I was driving, because driving in Nairobi is war. And I was telling that individual that we all, as the beginning of this national rearmament, all of us should go back to the driving school. All of us. So that we begin to learn anew. And once we begin to do those little things, we will begin to change how we behave. Good manners. We have become a nation where people are shameless. Shame is a good thing. Because it allows you to do things in an orderly manner.
Prof, do you think the political class is ready to have this discussion? Because so far the hearts are dark and
they will
hard.
be forced to. The political class would love a situation as it is, but they'll be forced to. Throughout history, the political class in many countries have just been pushed to a corner, and then they can't move. It is, I think, the last time when we said that amongst the Tui, there is a saying that if you run after a coward for too long, you meet his or her courage. I think the political class have run after us, Kenyans, for too long, thinking we are cowards. They are now beginning to meet our courage. And the national courage are the young people called the Gen Zs. Just order, organization, structures, and they take the vote. In the morning, they will have a new dispensation that answers to the needs of Kenya. But remember, good governance requires eternal vigilance. All of us are capable of following the wrong path if we are not kept on a short leash.
Professor Patrick Lot Otieno Lumumba, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
A lot to learn from, a lot to continue discourse over, and we're glad that you started off this conversation with us this morning. Asante.
Asante sana.
Good morning. 3 minutes past 10.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. National carrier Kenya Airways will starting today fly to the United Kingdom through Gatwick Airport after it secured the second entry. KQ will make its maiden flight from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to Gatwick Airport in a bid to enhance its global network. KQ General Sales Manager for East Africa, Rose Kisel, said Heathrow Airport, which was its first route, does not accommodate more flights. Speaking during the 2025 Kenya Air Travel Agents Annual General Meeting and Convention in Mombasa, Kiseli said Gatwick will give the national airline additional connectivity. Professor PLO Lumumba has told SpiceFM that Kenya is headed in the wrong direction, citing the government's blatant disregard for court orders, bad politics, widespread corruption and police brutality. He was speaking when he appeared on the ongoing Situation Room show.
We thought that we would eliminate political mobilization on the basis of negative ethnicity. It is alive and well. We thought that we would eliminate corruption in our politics and the politics of money and money bags would disappear. It is alive and well. We thought that we would eliminate arrogance in the hearts and minds of the political class. It is alive and well. We thought that changing the names of our forces, the police force, into a service will change how it relates to the people. It is worse now.
A record number of heat alerts are in place across France as the country and other parts of southern and eastern Europe remain in the grip of soaring temperatures. 16 French regions, including Paris, have been placed on red alert for Tuesday, the country's highest, while 68 others are on orange alert. On Monday, 84 of 96 mainland regions were under an orange alert, which France's climate minister called an unprecedented situation. Heat warnings are also in place for parts of Spain, Portugal, Italy, Germany, the UK and Balkan countries, including Croatia. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
All right, let's take a look at what's going on with traffic this morning. It is busy in the city and everybody's going everywhere at the same time. On the Thika Superhighway, traffic is heavy coming in all the way from the Allsops Junction, and even before that, it has reduced significantly. There is also traffic on Kiambu Road. It's going and finding its way through towards Muthaiga Square, and on Lower Kabete through towards Spring Valley, that traffic has started early. Very heavy traffic then starting off of Langata Road as you come in from Uhuru Gardens at the interchange. You'll find your way through towards Raila Odinga Way, and traffic that's coming in from Gong Road busy as well. Very busy also then as you get through towards Uhuru Highway from Mombasa Road. Very, very busy, guys. We're in traffic hour. Let's see what happens as we get through Tuesday. We'll talk and keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
A very good morning. It actually is 8 o'clock. I said a few minutes to 10. I'm telling you, the day is going like bullets. But here we are anyway, and it's a few minutes after 8 o'clock and getting into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation on the Situation Room this morning. Our audience on KTN here, and our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. And we continue this morning getting into a conversation this hour, and he's here in the hot seat, and he'll tell us why he's disappeared for some time. Already putting you on the spot.
I can hear.
Jimmy Wanjigi is the Safina Party leader, and he's here this morning. Jimmy, good morning.
Good morning, do long time.
Have you been in Kenya?
Yes, off and on.
Okay.
But yes, mostly here.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to meet the two Dennises too.
Yes, I'm surrounded.
I don't know which
Dennis.
one is Dennis the Menace here.
It has to be the younger one.
Okari, real pleasure. I don't think we've had the honor.
No, we've not met before.
Okay.
I only see you on TV.
Yeah, I also see you on TV.
But good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, likewise.
Okay.
Do what's this about today?
This About Today is asking very many questions indeed. And as we get into it, we'll tell you what those are. We're looking into 2027, whereas we're 2 years away from the election. You would imagine that tomorrow is the day that people are going to line up and take the vote. But before we get into that, the other Dennis...
the menace.
Yes.
I'll leave that to you. He's taken us to a different country this week. He'll tell you where that is, and we'd love to hear your interpretation of this proverb.
You're having this discussion about Dennis the Menace. We're actually having that discussion over the weekend.
Oh,
because
you are?
they used to appear on the newspapers and all of a sudden disappeared.
Yes.
So if you go to the library, they are there. So if you want just a history of Dennis the Menace, it is there. But today we are in a country whose capital is Gitega.
At Gitega?
Yes.
Hey, which country is
Not
that?
Kenya. It's not here,
Kenya,
Thika Road.
but it's in South Africa. Previous capital was Bujumbura. Now we're in Burundi.
Now we're together.
Burundi, yeah.
Yes.
The sad thing about the country is it's considered to be one of the poorest countries in Africa. But if you look at the agriculture they do is great enough to push the country's economy. And one would only hope that they get to take advantage of that to change the situation in the country. Today, let's talk about their proverb. It's all about fire and smoke. And you can't hide smoke if there is fire.
Yes, you can't.
How do you interpret that?
When there's smoke, there's fire. When something is burning, you can't hide it. That is very much the situation in this country of ours.
Okay.
Okay. From your interpretation, then I riddle you a question. Are things burning in Kenya?
Oh, completely. We have a revolution that has not stopped. And before I say too much, let me say that I'm honored to be here in the month of Sabasaba. This is the month of Sabasaba. A revolution that catalyzed what we call the second liberation of Kenya. And it's good to be here. I'm very proud to be here this month. At a time when there is the third revolution. This is why Kenya is burning. It's very clear that this third revolution was witnessed a year ago when we had the Gen Z uprising against the finance bill. And it's important that people understand that it was not just about the finance bill. It was about their political and economic future, their stolen future. That is what it was about. And before I go any further, I have been here several times, and one thing I always do is make sure that we remember our fallen soldiers. Last time I read up to, I think, number 40. You must recall that there were 60 that were killed last year, at least confirmed killed. This year again, I don't know the number last week, but they say it's 19.
Yes, we're at 19. Officially.
Now, you're talking about 80 young people whose lives have been taken. So I'd like to read the next 10 names, if you don't mind, so that we remember them and remember that we cannot forget them. Yeah? They are us and we are them. Those names.
Are these the names of last week?
These are the names of the 60 that died last year.
Yep.
And these names I have been recording here over the last few sessions. I had reached number 40. So now we go to 41. Dennis Juma, who died in Embu. Falandlio Nakara, can you believe it or not? A Tanzanian, a young Tanzanian man who died at Sunbeam. Braxton Omar Mugesi in Homa Bay. Besco Tonyango alias Benson Bidi Okumu in Kisumu. John Boidearis in Nyeri. Timothy Mashua in Nyahururu. Wycliffe Kane Mwenda in Nairobi. Daniel Kaikai Bungoma. Timothy Miheso in Kakamega, and Charles Owino in Kitengela. Now, you can see the different array. These are different communities, different people that came together to say, you are no longer going to steal our future. And that is the symbolism of Sabasaba. Sabasaba was about a stolen future that had been taken away from a period of independence. Every generation has stood up in this country against what they believed was a stolen political or economic future. You had the generation of Mau Mau that came in very clearly after we became a colony, 1920. They woke up, many of them, even Dedan Kimathi is rumored to have been about 26, 27 years old. You have people like Mariama, who were 24. You know, they were young people that decided no matter what it took, they were going to go to the forest and make sure that the two things they are fighting for, land and freedom, was going to be returned to the native African, the native Kenyan. And they did. Remember, it was both political freedom and it was land, economic. When independence came, unfortunately, although Jomo Kenyatta was a hero of the liberation struggle, because, you know, there's been a lot of debate, but at the end of the day, he did serve 7 years in detention too. He did. There's a lot of debate. But he seems to have compromised to what at the time were the sympathizers to colonialism. These were the home guards. They're the ones who seem to have taken over the government. And in as much as we got the African in terms of political leadership, we have been elusive in terms of our economic rights. It has been elusive. We got quite a number. We took over the reins of power from the Mzungu, but we took over power that the Mzungu had created in 1920. And Dennis, you were not here last time when I was talking about this.
No, I wasn't, but I was watching you.
You were watching me?
Yes, I was.
You know, there was a system that was set up here in 1920 by a private company called Imperial British East Africa. That was simply this. We are coming to extract, exploit the African, and dominate them. These police you see here were the watchmen of those Mzungus. They're the ones who took over as the domination arm. The government of Kenya that came into force at independence still modeled itself around the same. The only thing it changed was the color of the skin of who was ruling. Jomo Kenyatta, in his wisdom, did provide a system that empowered us to a degree in terms of land. There was land demarcation. There was clearly land Mzungus were made to give up. And the country developed a foundation, right, that was to lead to our prosperity. But we had challenges. And those challenges led to a dictatorship. Do you know the Constitution was amended and consolidated in 1969 to embed dictatorship? No, you didn't know that, did you? There was a consolidation from the Thurgood Marshall Constitution in 1969 that embedded dictatorship.
How would that
embedded
for it to live out how?
Like multipartism.
Okay.
No multipartism.
Yes.
That is what embedded the single party called KANU. Okay? Right? And that was a progression that was not envisaged at independence. So we got power and then said, now we're going to make sure that the choices of freedom, political freedom, are limited. It is that choice that led to the beginning of the second liberation. The 70s, 80s, and 90s were full of the second liberation for our political rights. It was that embodiment. All right? Moi, in fact, when he took power, further consolidated that constitution with something like 82 amendments to strengthen the power of the president and the single party. So it just tells you how much, how far we have come from. Now, at that time, you had what were called the bearded sisters. They were being called that by Jonjo, right? People like James Orengo, who stood up, at the time young men, my own party leader on the outside in the 90s. You had people like Kenneth Matiba, right, who were then middle-aged. You had Charles Rubia, same. You had even people like my father, who stood up against the dwellings in Moroto and so on. You had, on top of that, a generation of professionals. This is where Paul comes in, the Martha Karuas, and so on, that stood up in their time for the second liberation and said, these political rights that were envisaged by our forefathers must be adhered to, must come back. And the clarion call was the removal of 2A and reforms to the Constitution. I say that those reforms, which continued in 1997 with movements such as Mageuzi, those reforms that brought about, even in 1997, the limitation of the president's term of 10 years, were done by a generation of young Kenyans, patriotic Kenyans. That climaxed in 2010 with the new constitution. But look at what it took for the 2010 constitution. We had the exit of Moi in 2002. The beneficiaries of the exit of Moi were mainly Mwai Kibaki, who at the beginning of multipartyism was nowhere near. He was Kanu Damu. He was single party. He was a man in many ways, and he actually said it, that it is impossible, he said, right, to cut Kanu and cut out the single party. He even said that it is like cutting a mogumo tree with a razor blade. All right? But he became the president of Kenya. And in as much as we praise him for a lot of the economic gains that we got, because he was a true economic liberator, he believed in it, we must not also forget that it took the lives of 1,400 Kenyans to then have a new constitution in 2010. We cannot forget that. In other words, the struggle still continued. The struggle still continued. But as far as I'm concerned, that was the end of the second liberation. We got our political reforms. We can now speak as we are allowed to speak. It is now this government that is trying to draw back those gains. That, writing on social media has become a crime. Expressing your opinion has become a crime. These were things that were in the 90s, in the 80s. We have a new constitution that will not allow it. That protest is a crime. You seek to criminalize it by hiring goons. You want to stop the political process that is already done in the new constitution. And why that is happening is that there is a new revolution, something that has not been achieved yet. That is the economic one. It has not been achieved. This is still a government and a system that extracts, exploits, all right, and tries to dominate us with their police.
And yet, with a number of people who then, at that time that you speak of, are still within political circles today, who understood what the struggle was to get to a place where you could actually speak openly, and are part and parcel of a system whereby it's characterized by the things that you speak of. But we're not hearing them speak out. We are not hearing them say this has to stop. If anything, it's one big party and everybody is just, continuing with it as though it was normal.
That's why.
Characterized by people who were in that same struggle that you speak of.
Yes.
That got us to the point where people could speak openly and not for fear of being disappeared or kidnapped.
Yes.
And then still operate in a time today where they're not speaking out about the things that we see that are entrenching a free, quote unquote, era.
This is a very different era. Okay? And they are having difficulty catching up with it. This is a new revolution. An economic revolution is at an entirely different time. They went through their political rights period and they cannot find a way to anchor themselves in this new revolution. That is the problem. They are torn between the politics of the old, which was about tribe and coalescing together and arguing and finding a way to be on the table for the same process of extraction, exploitation of the people, to now facing a revolution that they have never imagined, the empowerment of majority of Kenyans. It's something that they cannot grasp. A detribalized country, they cannot grasp. An issue-oriented country, issue debate, they cannot grasp it. They do not see their future in it. So in as much as they will talk with a forked tongue. They'll talk sitting on the balance.
But Jimmy, is that surprising? Because you've given us a very good, clear history from fighting for independence, post-independence, the clamor for, the liberation movement and how it has changed. And you're looking at students of those old systems who are today in power. So is this then surprising? No. That whatever they are doing, like you rightly said, is taking us to the 90s and to the 80s, where it was extractions. It was if you voice your opinion, it's dissent. You will disappear. And right now, people are disappearing. The headline on the Standard today, they're asking, where is this young man for posting on X? Even posts that are clearly jokes for a mature person, they're taken really seriously. There's a report, I'm just seeing something that is just coming in, that there's another gentleman again who's been abducted. Last night, yes. I mean, does this then surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me. I don't know why it surprises Kenyans. Because a lot of the people we are talking about are exactly what you're saying. They've been part of the old order. What I think you are not looking at is that even though they have come together, for example, the reaction to the last protest in 2024 was to bring a broad-based government, was to say, okay, who is the opposition leader? Karibu kwa serikali. Bring your experts, as they call it. Right? Let us try and rejig this relationship. It is kick out the hawks on both sides. If there was a hawk this side called Gachagua, kick him out. The hawks on the other side, kick them out. So that now there's a union under the basis that we need peace, we don't want any more killings. Okay? What does it tell you a year later with the demonstrations last week? It hasn't worked.
No.
Yeah.
And Wananchi and the Gen Z are far ahead of them. The game has changed and they don't get it.
Yeah. And Jimmy, as that game has changed, there is also the relentlessness on the fact that we will push these until we get the justice that we want. Just how is the new phenomenon around Gen Z going to change the game for 20?
It has already changed it. I don't know why you're looking at 2027. Everybody is going towards a process that has already been implemented. We have never in this country, Dennis, you must appreciate what has happened. We have never seen this country rise up on something called an economy ever in the history of Kenya. They rose up against a finance bill. How many people understood what a finance bill was until last year? How many people? They rose up about money. In your lifetime, in my lifetime, we've never seen this. This was something that people said happened during the time of Mau Mau. All right? Have you said, our economy is our land. Wait a minute here. We are going to go and die for it. And 300,000 Kenyans died. That is the estimate. Were killed by the Mzungu. Last year, you had a young generation called Gen Z that got up and said, for this economic agenda, it wasn't just about the finance bill. It was about their stolen future. It is about the nation's decline rather than its greatness. They got up and they changed the axis of Kenyan politics. It's not a question of 2027. It has changed. The political formation that was there tried to rejig itself. And a year on, it hasn't changed. And they haven't changed. They're still resorting to killing and maiming, as you're saying, Dennis.
But is the story changing? You've said last year it was anti-tax protests. So you had people explaining the finance bill even in their mother tongue. So we'd never seen that. It's correct. There was also the question of accountability. We were seeing cabinet secretaries showing opulence and
with the people's money.
Exactly. And so they were coming out and they were saying, look, we've read this bill. This is so punitive. We want to secure our future. Therefore, we'll go to protest. But is the political class changing that narrative? Because now what you're seeing today is a fight for justice.
Dennis, let me say this.
Yes.
Let me say this.
Yes.
The bill was just a catalyst. The people were already feeling pain. What they resisted was more pain. Please understand that.
Pain.
Economic pain.
Yes.
Economic pain. So they were resisting a further economic pain with the finance bill.
Yes, correct.
That's why the demonstrations even went on to Nane. Even after the finance bill had been dropped, they still continued because it was an expression of the economic pain. A year on, the economic pain is still there, if not increasing. The demonstrations, whichever way you look at it, the biggest catalyst is that people are going through economic pain in nearly every home in this country. Nearly every home, apart from Ruth and his 10 friends. I don't think there's any home in this country that is not going through major economic pain. So the pain is continuing. You can brand last week's demonstrations as justice or this. What justice? It's economic justice. The death of Ojwang, the police miscalculations and abuse of power were catalysts to anger, further anger. But even I believe without that, it would have still happened. So-called as a remembrance, but what are they advertising? They are saying, we are still in pain and we don't want this system anymore. However, you have rejigged yourselves, yeah? You are still contributing to the nation's decline. You must get out. That was a clarion call. You must get out. This system must leave. And when you say we're waiting for the next election, that is you. And those who are calling for one term. That is a system that has already been set. Why wait for it? Kenyans, when they downed the finance bill, if you look at any country abroad, any modern Western democracy, the death of a finance bill is a motion of no confidence.
Absolutely.
All right? They lost it last year. What are they still doing in power? What are they doing in power?
Well, I mean, by your own admission, Jimmy, you said that nobody's in a position whereby they're going to say, well, okay, I can see that things have gone to the dogs, and so as a result of that, let me step down. Nobody's going to do that.
Let's look at it this way, They have tried to rejig themselves. We are back to square one.
With the same people?
Same people. They try to rejig, trying to say, okay, let's get the opposition leader, bring him in. Let us try and say we have a government of this. They've created narratives about what they are. The whole country is here. The country was always in cabinet anyway. It's no difference. Okay? Now, you come back. The pain is still there, economic pain. Gen Z still come out on the streets to express that to you. And what is your reaction even with broad-based? You kill them again. And the only reason you're killing them, Dennis, is because you cannot solve their economic problem.
Well, let's look at that economic problem for a minute, shall we? And let's do an overview of what we are looking at right now. And obviously, to what came out largely from what you essentially told the nation about, look here, this money that you're paying, likelihood of the likelihood that you actually didn't spend it and you're being asked to pay it back. So when we talk about the cries that come from people who are out in the street, true, the baby that was born was one of economic hardship. That people can't have jobs is an economic issue. That we don't have enough money to fund health is an economic issue. That we don't have enough money to send children to school or pay for their exams is an economic issue. That we want to defund education is an economic issue. That a young man is in the street and he's got to sell masks in order to survive.
And he's shot.
Literally to eat. And then he's shot. Those are the economic issues that we are talking about. That possibly if he was doing something else, and look, there's no justification for any of this, but that's his livelihood. And that his bill was 3-point-some odd million shillings. And his family, his father, who's also a vendor, was asking himself, how on earth am I going to pay this? These are all economic issues. It doesn't matter where you look. The hinge on all of these problems, when you open that door that creaks so loudly, is economics. But we're in a situation whereby for every 100 shillings that the country makes, 70 of those shillings goes towards the payment of debt, for which Kenyans cannot see. So are you saying essentially, Jimmy, that if you solve the economic issue and have somebody at the top who is prudent enough to deal with these issues, a good number of the issues that we are calling here will not be ones for concern?
You said it very well. Let me just add. Every single revolution in the world has been based on economic issues. Every single one. Even I was here, remember, the beginning was economic and political freedom. 1945, world order changed.
Right?
Mm-hmm. But what was that war about? Economic. The Germans were killing the Jews and creating a new world order without Jews, because they felt the Jews were controlling the economy in Europe. Right? The world economic order that came out then was one side went to communism and America dominated capitalism. All right? In 1991, the end of the Cold War, and I want you to see the significance. 1945, world order changed. 1950, Kenya started the emergency war. That was when Mau Mau started, 1950. Well, then the emergency was called in 1952. In 1991, you had the end of the Cold War. So the end of more or less communism as we knew it before. Right? And what happened in Kenya and many other countries, multipartyism started becoming a big campaign. All right? Big campaign. Significant times. It's all economic. In 2008, you had the big crisis in America, mortgage crisis. What had happened here? We had our clashes here that we've never seen. And it was a big catalyst to the new constitution in 2010. All right? Now, we are now in the next order. You can feel it in the world.
Right.
It is changing. The world order is changing. The dominance of America and its push, the way we even used to see Israel and everything, the whole game is changing, right? And there's a new economic order that is trying to be dealt with, and it's coming from China, primarily. That is also catalyzing us. But other things are coming that came out of the economic order. There's technology, information, right? We don't rely on just one or two mediums. So it is created more and more awareness. You have a younger, more educated population, especially in developing countries. So we are there. And we understand our problems. You know, I remember, I'm glad you're reminding us, the country about the debt debate. I came out with a report in 2022, July, before the elections. I even paid for advertising space in both the Nation and Standard Group to say, by the way, as you're going to vote, because some of us have been blocked, as you're going to vote, please understand there is a problem here, an economic problem here. Your money is going to something, right, that has never come to your benefit, And it will keep going. It is going to create the biggest problem you have ever seen. It was creating it, it had started, and this is going to be the legacy. Sure enough, here we are today. We talked about default, we talked about all these things, and everybody said, he's talking numbers and figures people will never understand. Who cares about the economic agenda? That's what a lot of people told me. You're talking in Spice TV. How many Kenyans listen to Spice? It's the elite who listen to Spice. Dumb it down to Wananchi. Wananchi now understand that money in their pocket has reduced to such an extent they even know why. Wanazungumza mambo ya madeni. How does Mwananchi not understand deni and they are fulizaing every day? They understand it at a national stage. They get it. They get it. And you have articulated it very well, do. 70 shillings of every 100 that we give in taxation is going to debt.
But Jimmy, sorry, just to quip in a bit, on that train of thought, when you are doing, I actually watched a series you're doing around the debt question in the country that year, but so did the Kenya Kwanza government in their manifesto. They talked about bottom-up, and the conversation around the country was for hustlers, mama mboga, boda boda, and so the rallying call was still on the issue of economy, and there were promises that were made. We will stop this culture of borrowing, and there were figures that were being quoted then. They were reading the economic report of the country correctly, and so on the premise of that, people then hoped that for the first time then, we have somebody who feels us, because it was hustlers versus dynasties. The dynasties don't feel the economic pain, hustlers do. And so because this is one of our own, let us just get him into this position, and then we will sort out all these issues. But things have timed.
I fully agree with you. They helped bring the economic debate to the election. Yes. It was about the haves, the have-nots against the haves. That's what their premise was. And in as much as they tried to talk about debt, I don't think they fully understood the problem. Or if they did, they were hiding it from Kenyans. There was no way they were ever going to be able to fulfill those obligations that they promised, when 70%, in fact, at the time it was about 60 to 65%, 65 shillings of 100 were going to debt. Because look at revenue. Revenue is taxes and debt. Right? So if you're receiving 100 shillings and 65 is going to debt, what do you then need for the counties? The balance of 35 goes to the counties. Right? Then how do you pay salaries? How do you pay operations of government? Salaries is another 50 to 60. So you're borrowing. So saying that they will get out of the culture of debt was a lie. It was a lie.
So then if
they are borrowing, right, for their own recurrent expenditure, which is against the law, right? The law does not allow you. So they do not have money to fulfill any promise, even today. That's why they are resorting to shooting young people. They cannot solve the problem, right? They cannot solve it because they do not have money.
Jimmy, I'm hearing you say that everybody is aware that there is a debt problem, number one, and that there's not enough money to pay the debt and run the country at the same time.
Correct.
And that people have risen up to say, look, this is a problem here.
Correct.
You cannot make a conducive environment for us to get jobs. You can't educate our children. You can't put enough food on the table. And because we're bringing up those issues, rather than solve the problem because there is a personal interest there, you're going to shoot us to keep us quiet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what choices do they have by solving the problem? You have two choices. You default or you say, I'm not paying it. Our position is that it is odious debt, which means that it is illegal debt that we should not be paying. As far as I'm concerned, that debt, we have no debt in this country. So that 70 shillings of every 100 should be wiped out. And I would wipe it out like yesterday. Right? But what are the consequences of that? A lot of these people, and William Samoei Ruto is one of them, he was part of creating that odious debt. He was in the government of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And they created that odious debt. In fact, William Samoei Ruto was the one given in the sharing of power the docket of finance. I know because I'm the one who did the MOU. His docket of finance. Rotich was his recommended appointee. So they know what they did. The minute you stop paying that debt, the creditors of that debt will look for them. The country will ask, why have we been paying that debt? We want whatever we paid to come back. What happens? They won't do it. So what is the other consequence? If you default, the economic ramifications that come out of a default will be much worse than you're talking today. They think they have stabilized the shilling, yet there's still economic pain. But I can tell you, default would mean the shilling is probably about 300-400 shillings
to the dollar.
All right? Everyone's life would literally come to a standstill. And that is more frightening than what they're currently doing. So, you say, postpone the problem. Sweep the problem under the rug. And if people come out, try and politicize it. Try and say, it's not about pain, it's political this, or it's tribe this, or it's that person, or it's this, or it's that. And hope that it's, I believe, after last year, they believed it was over. Okay? Now it has come back. Right? I watched William Ruto talk last week. That man is frightened. He is frightened. Okay? This system is frightened. You hear them, the system talk about shooting people. They are frightened. They are caged. They're in a corner. Right? They're wondering, can they handle another one and another one? Like this. The whole world saw what we saw last week. Right? They are frightened. Now, they did not anticipate it. So it'll be interesting to see how they believe they are going to manage this particular revolution. Now, just before you go on, Dennis, I want you to imagine to 2027 that every single June 25th will be celebrated this way. Are we agreed, Bwana Okari?
Yes.
So in 2027, which is the so-called targeted election, we have, my deputy has a case in court trying to make sure that the Supreme Court adheres to what is in the Constitution.
Yeah.
But let us even say it's 2027. June 25th falls within the 3-month campaign period to the election. I want you to imagine these demonstrations during campaign time. All right? 2 months to the election. This government has no chance of surviving. All right? It will probably react the same way if that's how they react, killing people. Right? And they'll brandish God knows what. They may even try to create a state of emergency or something of the sort. But at the end of the day, right, they will not be able to stay in power. So what some of us are asking is, why wait until then? You can't solve the problem. All you want to do is turn Kenya into killing fields, right? Killing young people, killing our future generations, right? You're doing so economically, now you're doing so with the gun. Why are you in power?
But Jimmy, if that's the case, let's just assume, for this argument's sake, let's just assume they're not in power. Whoever takes over, because when this current government took over, among the first speeches, from the promises, and it was very clear, the signs were there, that look, we had promised this is what we're going to do to the economy to fix things, but we have seen that when we came into power, the empty coffers, there's no money. That's what they said. So the next government, whether it's this one that will still take over, another one coming in, there's already a conversation from these realignments that has, I'll call an offshoot that has come from this. And they're saying, look, your pay slips have been raided. We're going to make sure that we stop it. This housing levy, we're going to make sure that we stop it. They're already having that economic conversation that we're going to fix this. Yet we have a debt issue.
Correct.
And so my question to you is, what is this uncomfortable conversation we are not having as Kenyans, because we may change the characters, the issues will still be the same?
Dennis, that's a wonderful question. I'm so glad you brought it up. You're very right. There is that conversation. And I want to talk about the different groups. There's a broad-based group that is about continuity. Status quo, continuity. There's that group, and those were the presidential candidates of 2022. Their deputies are in another group, right? Which I will call the one-term group, the whatever you want to call them. But that's where their deputies are. And those are the ones having that conversation about reduction of taxation. But they are not telling you how they will pay the debt. That's the uncomfortable discussion. How do you reduce the 100 shillings? All right? These 70 shillings of every 100 going to debt is going to continue until 2034. In other words, it grows every year. In fact, this year, I'm waiting for the figures. We're estimating that they are short on about 250 billion worth of tax revenue. So it may not even be 70 this year. It is 78% by our estimated calculations. All right? Wow. Of our tax revenue going to debt. It will be worse next year. That's 2 trillion going to debt this year. It is another 2 trillion and more next year. And it continues until 2034. Right? Now, they are not having that conversation because who are they? Who are they? They are the same players. Uhuru and Ruto, I kept saying, were a virus that just keeps mutating. All right? In 2022, one was on his own, the other was supporting another candidate. And all these people you're talking about were in either one of those two camps. It is the virus keeping on mutating. They will never solve the problem. Because solving the problem means that you are going after the very people, right, that created it, that are your benefactors. You have benefited from. You've been made out of. You had jobs from. Right? So they will not go after them. So they will not change the arena. That's why there's a new alternative option that's coming out. And Gen Z are leading it. Okay? Where it's politics of issues. Politics real. Not tribe. Not this division, that division. Not telling us hustler dynasty. No. Not telling us I'll reduce housing levy and telling us I'll reduce taxes. Okay, so how do you pay the debt? I mean, let's be honest. Right? Let's be honest.
But you're never going to get out of it. You won't get out of it.
You'll not get out of the problem. You'll not solve the problem. Those, in fact, by the way, housing levy is bringing how much money? 70 billion? All right? 70 billion. Remove it. You are paying 2 trillion. Now, the converse, which is the alternative, is saying this, that our stolen future, we want to reclaim it. And the way you reclaim it economically is with debt. You remove that debt, you save 2 trillion every single year until 2034. Now, I want you to imagine what 2 trillion does. You're talking about Shah and Shif, nobody will have to pay it. You need 170 billion for universal health care. Nobody has to pay. You need another almost 200 for education. Primary, high school, and university. Nobody will have to pay. Okay? You imagine the amount of services, not only services, but development that you can do without borrowing a cent. We don't have a revenue problem in Kenya. We have an expenditure one. And the expenditure one is purely debt servicing.
Do we have a country that we can look at as an example that said, look, we are not going to pay debts?
Yes.
And so we look at the precedent that has been set.
What happened is, the issue of odious debt started with Cuba long time ago. In fact, the Americans helped them come out of a debt that was claimed by the French. But you have people like Mozambique, our neighbors here, who had what you call a tuna bond, like our equivalent of our Euro bond. Right? That went to their own constitutional court. I want you to imagine their laws are not anywhere as good as ours. Our Chapter 12 in the Constitution, public finance and our Public Finance Management Act are so good. Now, theirs are not as good, all right, in Mozambique. And when they were there, they went to Constitutional Court after the regime had left. Parliament was even a defendant of that debt, and they lost. And they reclaimed $2 billion from Credit Suisse, another bank, a Russian bank called RVM, right? And people were jailed. People were jailed. You have Malaysia that had the 1 MDB debt of $4 billion. That has jailed a former Prime Minister, Konese, for 12 years. Right? And many others. And Goldman Sachs has had to refund that money and pay a fine. So those are odious debt particular. Ours, Dennis, our laws are so good. All right? This is just, one doesn't even need to go to court. Power, all you need to do when you get to power is say, I'm not paying that thing. It is unconstitutional, it is not in our laws. And whoever you gave that money to, because it never entered the consolidated fund, go and look for those people.
But Jimmy, there is the talk in terms of I'll not pay these odious debt, and there is what economists are saying, and I just want you to respond to that, that we stop paying that debt and the economy automatically tanks based off what international organizations would say. So how would you
How does it tank? Why does it tank?
Because apparently the rating of Kenya's economy would not be so good.
No. Are they saying that we should pay criminality? Dennis? Is that what they're saying? We audited the expenditure of government and the tax revenue of government between 2013 and 2023. 10 years. All right? Do you know what the deficit is in 10 years? Was only 1.3. In other words, they had a shortage between expenditure and revenue of 1.3 trillion. We borrowed 7.7. 6.4 trillion we did not need.
Right.
So 1.3 trillion is what we need in 10 years. That's roughly what? A deficit of 200 per year? Right? 100, in fact, 100 and something per year. Right? 100 billion is our deficit. In other words, we have the revenue. So even if those people say they don't want to help us, we are not going to give you development money, we don't need it. Do you understand? We don't need it. So why should we tank? Because we need who?
Okay.
We die if we continue paying.
Were there external beneficiaries to this debt? And I think that's the question here that we ask. Because one would imagine that you take debt as an entity, as a state entity, and that it is supposed to go towards development projects, depending on what your internal laws are. We know what that is. You borrow for debt or you borrow for shortfall in the budget, in the fiscal period, but that's not exceeding a term of 90 days.
Yes.
We know this. So if you were to borrow from an external party, more money than you needed, because we're going to say needed here, and looking at that 1.1 figure that you've given, that we were able to then see development infrastructure that went alongside that debt, that borrowing money. We didn't see anything for the 6.3.
Correct.
That's hanging out somewhere.
Absolutely.
Was not in the Consolidated Fund report.
Correct.
Not in the Auditor General report.
Correct.
6.3.
Nowhere in the budget.
Nowhere in the budget. So then the assumption is that the person who is lending it and the person who is receiving it are in bed together.
Absolutely.
Or that's the
Absolutely.
accusation.
Absolutely.
And along the lines of these are more or less the same characters who then put us on some world index
Yes.
for how you should be rated in terms of whether you're low income, least developing, whatever it is that you are. And then they tell you then based on that, that's what your credit rating is. But these fellas are on the same bed together and they're once telling you that this is what your debt looks like and this is how you can't pay, and we won't accept a situation where you won't pay.
I fully agree with you. I want to give an example of the first Eurobond we took, right? The first $2 billion Eurobond we took from JP Morgan Chase. That $2 billion, all right? If you read the prospectus of JP Morgan Chase as they were trying to get this money from others, because you understand that they raise it from the market.
Yeah.
All right? It's not that they have the money in the bank. They raise it. As they raise it from the market, they have got to go out with the prospectus. Kenya looking for a sovereign bond. And if you read the prospectus, it's done by Rotich, saying it is for development projects in Kenya.
Okay.
All right? Now, JP Morgan Chase has a fiduciary responsibility to the people who are giving them money to ensure that the prospectus is accurate. So all they needed to do was say which development projects, right? And those development projects are anchored in the budget. All right? All of them. So it should have been funding in the budget. It doesn't exist in the budget. So they didn't care. They are no different to the allegations against Adani. Right? You raise money under falsehood from the emerging markets. Those are people to be investigated by SEC. So yes, they're collaborators. They are collaborators. They open an account, right, in JP Morgan Chase for people from the Treasury to sign.
Yeah.
Those are collaborators. They should have read our constitution. So we have a challenge here. I agree. But the same ones who are going to rate us do. Our government will be very clear that, by the way, we are not going to pay what is illegal to us. Those that you gave money, kindly look for them.
Yeah, because it's like
it
somebody
is
else
obvious
has
to
moved,
us as Kenyans.
Somebody else has moved into the house.
Yes.
And you're saying that the person who rented the house before owes you some
Owes
money.
you money.
For whatever
Go and
it
look
is.
for them.
Go and look for that.
Yes.
Essentially what we're saying.
Because it never came to our benefit
And all
as
of these,
we moved in. Yes.
And all of these issues that we see today are hinged on some of these decisions to the trillions, essentially. And that's why we have people, and that's why you have the nation on its knees complaining and in the street.
And it will not end until that virus of debt payments is cut. That is actually the removal of our slavery. So Dennis, Okari, I want to say, you're very right. Which are the players?
You know, it's so serious. I was just doing my calculations here. $2 billion US, you convert it to Kenya shillings, assuming on average you live 50 years. Every day of your 50 years, do you know how much you'll be eating every day? 14.1 million every day for 50 years.
Yes. Now that's $2 billion.
That's $2 billion.
I want you to understand our debt is now creeping to 12 trillion.
12 trillion.
That's unbelievable.
And in the last few, and we keep paying. So you have just said we've paid 2 trillion this year.
Yes.
This thing doesn't go down. It keeps going up. When Ruto took power, it was at 8.5. It's now 12. What is going on? Do you think you'll ever pay it? You can't. Because as I said, your money, 70% of it, of your taxes, are going to paying it. You need to keep borrowing to live.
Essentially what you're saying, we who are alive today, our unborn children to their 10th generation will still be paying these current.
Yes, if they're still alive.
Unless somebody comes
We are
and
dying.
says,
We are dying. If you're not dying economically, you're dying with a bullet. We are dying.
Something's got to give.
Kenya cannot continue with this. And anybody who does not address this as the biggest factor today, tomorrow, and the day after is wasting Kenya's time.
That's a good
All their stories are just rubbish.
And that's a place for us to think about this, because we can tie it directly to that. And for us to be able to think about, I mean, it's a lot to take in, but it's necessary to do and to have conversations around, and the discourse has to continue. Thank you for opening eyes, Jimmy.
Thank you.
And we look forward to the next time we can talk again, because we must keep these conversations front and
Thank
center.
you very much.
Jimmy Wanjigi has been our guest this hour, looking at some of these things. My goodness, you start off Tuesday and you're like, what on earth are we going to do? Now here's Dennis with his 50 years, and I don't know.
Yeah, you calculated very well.
That's the truth, and that's
Very
where we
well.
are. It's a Situation Room at 9:03. Good morning.
Thank you.
Morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. Businessman Jimmy Wanjigi has said hard economic times are fueling mass protests across the country. His remarks come days after what was meant to be a solemn anniversary meant to honor those killed during last year's Gen Z protests turned violent, tragically adding 19 more names to Kenya's growing list of victims of police brutality. Speaking to SpiceFM, Wanjigi said Kenyans have been taking to the streets to demand economic justice.
The economic pain is still there, if not increasing. The demonstrations, whichever way you look at it, the biggest catalyst is that people are going through economic pain in nearly every home in this country. Nearly every home, apart from Ruth and his 10 friends. I don't think there's any home in this country that is not going through major economic pain. So the pain is continuing. You can brand last week's demonstrations as justice or this. What justice? It's economic justice.
President William Ruto attended the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in Seville on Monday as part of his official visit to Spain. The conference brought together global leaders to craft new principles for financing sustainable development. Ruto reaffirmed his administration's commitment to making Kenya a leader in renewable energy in Africa.
Kenya will have 100% of its grid as renewable by 2030 because we have innovative financing using power purchase agreement to bring the public and the private into one ecosystem, and we are funding our green energy generation using private funds and working with public interventions.
Ruto also had bilateral talks with world leaders, including his Polish counterpart Andrzej Duda, His Majesty King Felipe VI of Spain, and Germany's Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development, Rim Alabali Radovan. One of Nigeria's wealthiest businessmen, Aminu Dantata, is said to be buried in Saudi Arabia after he died on Saturday in the United Arab Emirates. Business mogul Dantata, who was 94 and uncle of Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, leaves 3 wives, 21 children and 121 grandchildren. His body was said to be transferred from Abu Dhabi, where he died, to the holy city of Medina after Saudi authorities approved his burial in their country. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Traffic.
All right, what's happening with traffic this morning? It's been busy all day, and we're getting into Tuesday, where children have gone back to school, students around the country going to different directions, and you'll see a lot of traffic right around Landis Road, then going towards Haile Selassie at the junction. Everybody's in a rush, as I am as well. And as you come off of Mombasa Road, there is some traffic, quite some as you get past Next Gen, going towards the Nyaya Stadium roundabout. Very busy also still on the Thika Superhighway, right around Murang'a Road towards the roundabout. It's a busy morning, guys. Keeping an eye on all of this, let's talk. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
It's 8 minutes after 9 o'clock. Yes, I don't know. I feel like I'm out of breath. But it's that morning where things are just taking us, we keep going and going and going. This is a Situation Room. It is Kenya's biggest conversation, and we've had a number of those this morning already. And it doesn't stop, because we need to keep pointing ourselves in the direction where we're having conversations that matter, and beyond that, conversations that will take us to the next place. And that's what we do here. Our next guest is already in the hot seat. She's already seated, and it's been a long, my goodness, it's been 1 month, but it seems like it's been a year already. Party leader of the People's Liberation Party is Martha Karua, and she's here this morning. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good in the circumstances.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good. It's good to see you.
Nice to be back.
Welcome to July.
It feels like
July.
6 years.
Yeah, we have lost that consciousness of time. Things are moving too fast.
Jimmy reminded us it's the month of Sabasaba as well.
Yeah. In another 6 days now.
Yes.
Yeah. And it also brought your name up, actually, in terms of professionals in the generation who fought for the struggle for time and space in a time where we were coming out of the place where freedoms were not guaranteed, but really struggled to say it is necessary that this supreme law that we're all fighting for, and then that we see the culmination of the 2010 constitution, that there were people who were insistent on saying, you know what, there are freedoms that we fight for. They must be realized by this generation before you get to the next place. And so we seem to be at another place on the precipice of moving to yet another one of those struggle moments, and that forms the basis for our conversation today. So I thought it was interesting to let you know that your name came up in that discourse.
That's great, but I'm happy that today we have young people, the Gen Z, who are standing in the gap and who are pushing to resist taking away of their God-given freedoms, which are entrenched in the Constitution.
In the Constitution.
Yeah.
Dennis is going to take us to another country where we're getting Proverbs from this week. He'll let you know where he's gone, and we'd love to hear your interpretation of it.
Yeah, the country we're in today is in East Africa region, Burundi to be specific. And just a few fun facts about it is it's a landlocked country and borders Rwanda to the north, Tanzania to the east and south, and the Democratic Republic of Congo to the west. Lake Tanganyika, one of the world's deepest waters, forms part of Burundi's southwestern border. And our proverb today, you cannot hide smoke if there is fire.
What an appropriate one for today. I think I would interpret it by telling the regime that is running this country, the rogue regime, that you cannot hide smoke while there is fire.
Yeah.
You cannot deny responsibility for abductions, the atrocities happening, and the sponsored goons destruction that occurred on the 25th of June. Yeah.
And that's where we are, because, the conversation that we have at this point, the words are heavy to use as adjectives to describe what is going on, but we've heard them. When on one side we talk about repression, we talk about a police state, we talk about authoritarianism, totalitarianism, but sadly and unfortunately, these are the manifestations of the things that we actually see. On the other side, in what would be seen as an uprising, a dissent, we hear things like an attempted coup. We hear things like dissent. We hear things like terrorism and treason. We've heard these words being used to describe what on the other side folks are saying, we can't allow this to continue. But that seems to be the same. And unfortunately, instead of being in a place where there's a symbiotic relationship between the people and those who have been given the duty of representation in terms of leadership, what we're having is us against them. Does that characterize the situation that we are currently in?
It does, where the us are the people and them are a small clique of the ruling elite. Because the people of Kenya are saying we want to be governed in accordance with our constitution, with our laws. We do not want our rights taken away. Whether it is about the economy, it's about individual freedoms, just follow the contract between those who are in authority and the people. And it's all written in the Constitution. And I'm just imagining those words, treasonous. What is treason? Treason is not exercising your rights. Treason is not expressing dissent when things are not going right. Treason is trying to overthrow the Constitution. To this rogue regime, I would say, you are treasonous. You are trying to overthrow the Constitution of Kenya, passed by the people of Kenya, and by which you swore to abide, by which actually gave you the positions that you hold. When you abduct people, when you shoot to kill, and may Boniface Kariuki rest in peace, and the many others who have been killed, including Albert Ojwang and the very many others. It's not possible to mention all of them here. But Boniface comes to mind because he was shot to be killed, because he was shot at point blank range. And the officer went for his head and is now on TikTok saying sorry. Why is he not before a court of law? Why do we hear a cabinet secretary, a lawyer, telling the police shoot to kill, lying to them that he can cover their back? Nobody can exempt you from the law. And the police had better know. Nobody will cover their back. When they stand in the dock, they'll be alone. The CS won't be there. And then you hear Dr. William Ruto himself reinforcing those words. They cannot avoid the blood that is on their hands, that has been shed and continues to be shed. So I am thinking that even the word terrorism, it is the state terrorizing its own people. When the state pays goons, and it's clearly shown that police vehicles are ferrying the, I don't know what to call them, but the wood-made batons, the crude weapons with which to terrorize the people. When you see the police walking with the goons in the street, the police covering them as they assault the people, then you know that the people of Kenya are being terrorized by those who are supposed to protect them, and the taxes they pay are being used to terrorize them. It is when a regime ceases to rely on the law enforcement agencies and on lawful means and hires goons, it signals the imminent fall of that regime and that the country is being set up for anarchy. Then you hear a cabinet secretary say there will be no elections in 2027. Two ways of interpreting that. The easier way is to imagine that there could be consensus. But if you look around and see what is happening, are they setting us up for anarchy so that they can be able to declare a state of emergency to perpetuate themselves? Because from the looks of it, all over Kenya, people are saying no to this rogue regime. And I keep saying the word Ruto must go. It's not Ruto alone. Ruto is the head of the regime. So people are saying Ruto and his entire complement. And that's the way they should understand it. So it's not as though he can go and leave Kithure Kindiki. It's not as though he can go for Moses Wetangula as speaker to take over. Ruto must go stands for Ruto and his entire complement.
4 days ago, you did a statement condemning what you refer to as the state-sponsored goons who infiltrated the otherwise peaceful protests. You spoke about raping of women, brutally assaulting citizens, businesses looted, and orchestrated chaos. You say, they and those backing them must be punished to the full extent of the law. So we've had this conversation. Yesterday, the DCI boss was questioned on this headline on the Standard, where is Diangwe, and he said, is a person of interest, we're also looking for him. It almost feels the security agencies in these conversations, each person is saying, it's not me, I don't know, it's not me, I don't know. You've just said it seems like we are being slowly led into a situation where there will be a state of emergency, therefore no elections. Are you seeing us going there? Is this the imagery that you have that's actually where we're headed?
As I answer that, let's start with Diang'ui, which is the headline of the Standard today.
Yeah.
We are in court. I actually was the lead lawyer in the team that got the DCI asked to produce Diang'ui today at 11. Diang'ui was arrested on the 21st when they searched his house. I will not go into that because the DCI is denying.
He said so yesterday.
Yesterday was the 27th. 7 or 8 days after his disappearance, a matter that has been very public. It has been discussed widely. Why would the DCI choose to have a press conference rather than wait to appear in court today? Only on the day he knows that they are compelled to produce Diang'ui tomorrow. It is not in good faith. If he was a man of good faith, they would have commented long ago because we've been telling them, tagging them, telling them to produce Diang'ui. So we are going to face him in court. I'm asking him why now. We are going to court at 11 and they'll be telling us where he is. But forget this case because it's not the only one. Anytime people disappear, even when Bob Jaggi and the Longton brothers disappeared, the police went to court and said it is not them. Yet Bob Jaggi and the Longton brothers say it is the police who abducted them. They were dumped on the day the Inspector General and DCI were to appear in court. Those days it was Masengeli, if you remember. And they had been disobeying a court order to appear. So they miraculously are dumped on the day he's to appear. There have been many other cases. We are still in court in the Law Society case filed in December for Bernard Kavuli and several others on disappearance, actually 6 others. 2 have turned up dead. 4 were released. 2 are still missing. I do not know whether the math is correct. I may be missing the numbers, but I know 2 are still missing. The Mrolongo 4, 2 turned up dead, 2 are still missing. It is so worrying. Unless if the courts of law stamp their authority, the police are determined to keep saying it wasn't me. And imagine, let's assume it wasn't them. Since a year ago when disappearances, enforced disappearances and abductions became the order of the day, we pay them to know what is happening in the country and to keep our security. They would have found out by now. Short of them saying, we are unable to do our work. This is beyond us. They cannot say they do not know. The word I do not know
should
never apply from the police. They would be saying, we are trying to find out. This is what we have found out. So we are in a state where we are on our own, you know, and they cover for each other. Today, the man responsible for the arrest of Albert Ojwang, the DIG, is yet to be arrested. Talam, the OCS who is charged in court, has already said that it is the DIG Langat who told him that he should be disciplined a little. That is enough. He is the one who set things in motion, a chain of events that ended in the death of Albert Ojwang. Clearly, from where I see it, he's not just a person of interest. He is the trigger that caused all those events. He should be behind bars. They're covering for him. Ruto is silent on that. Because this is the man he would like to take over the police force. A man who will, you know, if we go by this, a man who will not respect the Constitution. So you look at all these things and we say, yes, they want to set us up. We as Kenyans must refuse, must resist. We must not allow them a day more beyond where they should go. And they must know Kenyans have an option to remove them earlier. Article 1 does give us. Dr. Ruto how should I go? Take the same route you took to come to where you are. You could either resign. If you respected the people, the voice of the people, if you were a Democrat, you would resign by now with your entire government. You would go home. But because you will not, the people will remove you. Either 2027 or earlier. Because if they continue killing people, people can exercise their option. You will kill just like you're killing, but you cannot kill everyone. And I keep reminding them, we've had dictators, authoritarian rulers, terrorists in the name of leaders, and none of them have survived the will of the people. Not Idi Amin, whom Ruto is imitating, because I will be forgiven for christening him the butcher of Kenya, because of the number of people being killed everywhere. Not al-Bashir. Al-Bashir had a very, very serious army and police state. He still went down. Not the leaders in Egypt. And even in China, Tiananmen Square happened. No dictator, not even Adolf Hitler, has ever survived the will of the people. So, Dr. William Ruto, you and your rogue regime will not survive the will of the people. You can shoot us many, you can kill us many, but you'll not be able to annihilate the entire nation.
His argument is the street protests is not the way to get him out. And when he was saying, how do I go? He made reference to the Constitution. So there are legal and constitutional ways of getting him out of office. And he's saying, I'm constitutionally mandated to be in my, whether you call it 1 term or 2 term, I'm in my term.
Is he constitutionally mandated to kill people? I would advise him to look for a better lawyer than Murkomen to read the Constitution for him if he himself is not able to read the plain words that power resides with the people. And even to remember, even in his own enterprises, he hires and fires. Even where one has a written contract, you can fire them beforehand. The people of Kenya have the right to fire you for gross incompetence, gross violation of the Constitution, and an attempt to overthrow the Constitution. The same Constitution also says you cannot establish a government other than by way of lawful means. Now, the regime, he has overthrown the Constitution and established a rogue regime. His time is spent, and he must know that he cannot read the Constitution selectively. And if he cares for this country, and if at all he has any modicum of respect for himself and the people, he should be packing his bags. And he should not blame the chaos that we have seen, and there is evidence that it is state-sponsored. He should not even try to blame it on any individual or the opposition. If you say, they even tried to frame the uprising as something from a region, Mount Kenya. 27 counties cannot be a region. He has tried the tribal narrative. It has failed. Kenyans are saying we are beyond that. So let him address the issues. When people are demonstrating because of Ojwang, they kill others. Other than Boniface Kariuki, who was deliberately murdered, many others, we are being told 19, maybe now 20 with Boniface.
Right.
But is it 20? Because these are people who falsify records. When will we get to know the actual number of the dead? About the police stations that were banned. Every government installation is guarded by uniformed police from the administrative police unit.
Right.
In all those videos, we didn't see any of them. And I've been wondering,
where were they?
Did the police give way to the goons who set fire? Like the most graphic case is the Nyandarua one. There's a video circulating. You see them break the windows of the car, open the bonnet, and then set fire. And then they go to the next car. Their faces are seen. One of them has the trademark rungu or stick, if you like. The freshly minted ones
Yes.
that are walking around with goons and are being ferried in police vehicles. So that automatically tells you who are the people who would be so bold going car to car. And there were not a big mob that you'd say the police ran away because 10,000 people went. In the case of the Nyandarua one, you see just about 6 or 7 people, and their faces are not covered. Who are these? And why? Who was guarding Kikuyu police station on that day? Who was guarding the court? Because all government installations have said are guarded. Did they call for distress? Stop arresting youth who have been vocal. Stop arresting human rights champions, trying to frame them. We saw the goons. We saw you walk with them. Release the activists who are arrested and go for the people you sent because you know them by name.
On the day of the protest, we saw, as you've clearly indicated, police working together with the goons. And even on the day of June 25th, Kenyans woke up to roadblocks and barricades outside
Barbed wire.
Barbed wire. And one would say, if the kitchen is too hot, get out. Get out. And with that again comes the question of police and investigations that are done. We're being told we don't know where Nyang'ui is. But then again, we remember within 4 days you gave us entire report on who killed the MP Were. Appears as though when it comes to police working, police is meant for a specific sector of Kenyans and not everybody.
That's what is appearing, that all the state machinery, including the law enforcement, is being used for a clique. The elite that are leading, and not for the population. You cannot say you don't know where Nyang'ui is, you didn't pick him, and you're not telling us where he is. You cannot say you do not know about the welfare of Kenyans, which is your core business. I am telling members of the security agencies, you are Kenyans like us. You deserve protection of the law just like the rest of Kenyans. Do not obey illegal orders. You'll be at the dock alone. Safeguard everybody. Do not use the instruments we have given you. Those guns, those heavy machines we have given you are not for terrorizing us. They are for guarding us. And to the army, your work is to deal with external enemies. When did your fellow Kenyan become an external enemy? The cowardice of Dr. Ruto is legendary. I have never, and I'm now in my late 60s, I have not seen a president barricade themselves. And we demonstrated as the youth during Moi era. I have never seen people who barricade themselves with barbed wire. That is not your house, Dr. Ruto. It's our house. If you barricade your house in Sugoi, we will not ask you. If you barricade your house in Karen, we will not ask you. If State House is too hot, why don't you leave and take a holiday in Karen? Let the people visit their house.
As well, Martha, one would have expected that by now statements made by the Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen, at least something ought to have happened. He should have been taken in to substantiate his orders because you know he does not have any authority over the police service. That's number one. Number two, NCIC to move in and even ask questions based on that. But there is semblance of silence.
Thank you. NCIC, why do we pay you? You summon people who are merely expressing themselves. How come you have not summoned Kipchumba Murkomen for the shoot to kill order, which he denies, but he was captured by the media giving exact that order. An illegal order because, yes, he does not command the police. Even if Inspector Kanja was to give that order, it will still be an illegal order because there are circumstances where police are allowed to use necessary force. Shooting to kill, shooting people on sight is not necessary force. It is excessive force on unarmed protesters. I think that it is about time. And yesterday we did call for the resignation of or firing of Kipchumba Murkomen. But why should we stop at Kipchumba Murkomen? Dr. Ruto himself reinforced that statement. So actually, the call should be for the entire regime to go. The fish rots from the head. This particular fish is rotten. And it is time. Kenyans were given time to reorganize themselves.
Let's talk about this head. You and William Ruto, then he was no president, served together quite briefly in the Grand Coalition cabinet under President Mwai Kibaki.
Yeah, for 1 year to be precise.
Yes, that's why I said in a short period, a limited period. So in April 2008, following the post-election crisis that we had in the country, that coalition government came together. At the time, you appointed Minister of Justice, National Cohesion and Constitutional Affairs, and Ruto was serving as Minister of Agriculture. I believe you had cabinet sessions together. In your limited interaction with him, did you see a side of him then that you're not either seeing it now, or are you seeing something totally different from what was projected when you worked with him? What do you see in terms of character?
I see the same Ruto. I'm not among those that he has been able to deceive as to who he really is. A person who does not respect boundaries. Even in that cabinet, if you go to the records of newspapers, you'll see we had an altercation in December of 2008 inside cabinet over the maize scandal emanating from his ministry. He was Minister for Agriculture. And those who may wish to dig up will see how the subsidy for maize supposed to help the people to bring the price of maize down. He shared it out to friends. And the best was the confession by the late Kibor that sitting at his desk, the letter he was given made him earn a cool 85 million because he sold that letter to a miller. So we even went to Parliament. There was a motion to remove Ruto as Minister of Agriculture, a motion of no confidence. As a cabinet minister, I actually voted for the motion. There were 22 of us, and even Mwangi Kionjore, who is now with him, voted for his removal. And thereafter, in another 4 months, I was out of government because we had ceased to see eye to eye on policy, not just with Ruto, but with most of the government, and I felt that my mandate as the person, articulating policy on the fight against corruption, I felt I was not getting support for my mandate. And also for human rights. Remember, it was the time too many youth were killed, including Mungiki, youth dubbed as Mungiki. So there were so many issues, and the issues of administration of justice. So Ruto, in his DNA, he's a person, no respect for the truth, lies all the time, even everybody has said it. He also has no boundary of what is his and what is public, as would be exemplified by the maize scandal, the land grabbing, and many other issues that have surrounded him. Today, nobody has confirmed to Kenyans that he has ever paid for Weston. And we see it keeping recurring in the newspapers. So we have cases confirmed by the court. That's why I'm talking openly, because sue me, I'll substantiate. The court have actually had 2 cases where it found you to have grabbed land, the Muteshi land and the Weston. If it is corruption, I'll be able to substantiate. He was charged with corruption. The case collapsed because the witnesses were either compromised. Some he promoted because they were in his ministry.
The reason I asked that question is at the time before resigning, what was coming out is a complaint that the president then, Mwai Kibaki, did not consult you as the justice minister when you're looking at all these appointments, including Ruto's appointment back then, and the consultations around who you're working with regarding justice matters and constitutional matters. Are you then seeing, because that was the government then, now this is another different government, is this the same script, different characters? Are we going to expect any change whatsoever?
Let me say this. The immediate trigger for my resignation was appointments in the judiciary. Without any, not that I was mandated or a member of the JSC. But once the recommendations are given to the president, then as his constitutional advisor, and with the mandate of being able to forward judiciary issues to cabinet, there are backroom consultations. And he had consulted me before the 2010 constitution in the same appointments in 2006, and I had advised him against it. Then they bring the same behind my back, and I'm called to attend, and I refused and left because my mandate has been taken away. The fight against corruption had been abandoned, and the rule of law and human rights had been abandoned. Now, administration of justice was also heading the wrong direction. Yes, the seeds of these things were sown then. I had difficulties even the time he appointed the Grand Coalition government, because I was insisting that he should not appoint people who have issues of integrity. The Constitution had not yet been passed, but we had the Public Officers Ethics Act. So it was possible to say people who do not qualify this. And he was told by others that it is okay, it's a Grand Coalition government. So then things start to happen the wrong way. Because if he had followed that law, Ruto should not have been admitted to cabinet at that time. And it was not only him. Okay. There are about 3-4 people who ought not to have qualified. So you can see the cancer is eating us. Then we come to 2013. And Kenyans must always ask themselves, was it a mistake to elect people who had cases at the ICC? What's the message? That the rule of law doesn't matter.
So this isn't it.
Whether they are guilty or not. So finish your issue first. And
so there is an issue with adhering to the rule of law, and it didn't start just now.
No, it's a cancer
previously, whether it was subtle or overt, that there seems to be an affinity for everything but the rule of law.
The rule of law,
And it just, even as we have these conversations where we say certain things, then for us to really understand what it means to adhere to the rule of law, perhaps that could be the solution to a lot of these things that we see. That individuals who then will have a penchant for nothing but to adhere to the rule of law, then we will see that this needle will start to move in the direction in which it ought to.
Thank you very much for that, because really even today, even as we chant Ruto must go, and indeed the rogue regime must go in its entirety, we as Kenyans must be conscious. What is the problem and what will be the answer to the problem? The answer is lack of adherence to the rule of law. And the rule of law means the Constitution and the laws made under it. It means governance, because there can't be good governance that is not grounded on the rule of law. Therefore, the alternative to the rogue regime that has all but overthrown our Constitution is bringing in leadership that will respect, adhere to the rule of law. Leadership that will respect boundaries, because it's all about the rule of law, by the way, and governance. But people don't connect. People tell you that we can deal with the rule of law later. If you see the footprints, even from the Kanu era, the issue was the same. When people were being detained without trial, when leaders were being detained for merely expressing themselves, including expressing themselves in parliament, because Serone and Shikuku, it was just expressing themselves inside parliament where you have privilege, but the privilege was ignored. Matiba and Robia is expressing themselves outside, and they were entitled even under the old constitution. Lawyers Getobu Imanyara, Dr. John Kaminwa, Mohamed Ibrahim, who today sits at the Supreme Court, it was because of their work as advocates. Imanyara for writing the Nairobi Law Monthly, for being critical of the government, which you can see today that every young person who has exercised their right to be critical of the government or to call others to come and attend peaceful demonstrations like Diangui are being punished. So you can see it's the same thread of people who do not respect the rule of law and therefore do not respect the rights of others and even life of others.
All these matters still end up, in terms of legal redress,
Yeah.
they all end up, like you say, today there's a case of Ndiangui.
Yeah.
All these matters will still eventually go to court.
Yeah.
As the current status and the current feeling is that Parliament is already captured by the executive.
Yeah.
By extension, judiciary also is captured. Is your view the judiciary is also captured by the executive, or what's going on?
I would say that yes, there is encroachment of the judiciary, but we can still see sparks of light in some of the judicial pronouncements. A few in the lower courts, noting that the lower court issues of rights are not always there, but we can see a few of them standing up. We can see the human rights courts standing up, even though sometimes you can see wavering. But there is some good coming out of the High Court, some good coming out of the Court of Appeal, and I'm unable to see much coming out of the Supreme Court, because even where the High Court and Court of Appeal ruled the 2023 finance bill unconstitutional, the Supreme Court rumbled. Yes, no, but it still can apply. Once something is unconstitutional, it can't apply. So you can see lack of firmness. But the courts can yet redeem themselves. Because the framers of the Constitution, the people of Kenya, in their wisdom, entrusted arbitration of disputes between them and the leadership in the courts of law. I would urge professionals holding position of authority in the courts, in any other department of government, know that even if the technical appointment is by a person in office, you owe your allegiance to the people of Kenya. Those appointments are done in our name and on our behalf. And you must always consider what is the best interest of Kenyans, not what is the best interest of the ruling class. I would urge them to be true to the oath of office and to know nations are built by you and me. You in the position you hold, even just as a rank and file police officer, constable. You, when you uphold my rights and the rights of others, you are building the nation. When you don't, you are destroying the nation. So we must know that nations are built by their citizens, and laws are as good as the people who enforce them. Let us do our bit. We need a collective consciousness as Kenyans to build this nation, to restore the rule of law, and with it, human rights and good governance, and to know that you cannot exchange a bad government with another bad one. You need to look at all the people seeking leadership. And I don't mean for one seat, because people focus on the presidency only. Focus on your MCA and governor, because that's your county government. And most of your day-to-day things, including health, including necessities like water, they are managed by these people. And your money is coming to these people. Focus on your women rep. Focus on your constituency MP and senator. That's your national parliament, which shares the national cake to you. Then focus on the presidency. Unless if we do that, to change the entire leadership and put leadership that will think that is people-centered. Because what we are having is a government that serves itself. And that is totally unconstitutional. They should be servants of the people, not serving themselves, not converting the state as their vehicle to opulence, to undeserved riches, and to unbridled power, which they abuse to oppress us.
Martha, one of the things you said is that we will not allow this to continue to happen.
Yeah.
That it happened in time gone, but it's also happening today,
Yeah.
whereby, you know, things like right to representation don't happen, whereby right to then lobby and picket and demonstrate or protest, are met with the things that we are seeing today. But you said we're not going to allow this to happen anymore, and that people have to decide that this shouldn't happen anymore. How exactly do you see this living itself out?
Collectively, we will not allow, and Kenyans have shown they will not allow. When you see young people going to the streets, writing their obituaries beforehand, they have had enough and they are saying, I better die defending my rights rather than live on my knees. It is the same spirit that had the freedom fighters who rescued Kenya from the chokehold of the colonial government. It is the same spirit of the second liberation, of people whose blood was shed, people who suffered to usher in a new era. This is the same spirit of today's Gen Z, that I better die defending my country. I just want to say to us Kenyans, we can't leave it to the Gen Zs alone. You and me have a role to play. We must together vow not to allow this rogue regime to destroy what we have built. And we must vow to usher in a regime that will be able to help us rebuild Kenya. And here I want to give just a small example. You asked me whether I think from the years I've worked with William Ruto in Parliament and in Cabinet, he has changed. He has not. And you can only know a person through their actions. So for any of us who come to you seeking position, look at somebody's previous utterances and what they do. You'll be able to know the total sum of that person. And they need not have served in government. You will still be able to know them from their neighborhoods.
But Mama, the other concern is this. If we talk about alternatives and speaking to Kenyans, right now we have the president. He's still in power. He's the president. But then the realignments that we currently see from his former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua. We have former Attorney General Justin Muturi. We have yourself. We had Agriculture Minister then Linturi. We are seeing Matiang'i. We are seeing Eugene Wamalwa. You are seeing a lot of these people.
Don't forget Kalonzo.
And Kalonzo Musyoka, sorry, thank you for reminding me. So we are seeing all these people coming together. And people are saying, look, is this the alternative? These are old deputies of the ones who are currently in power. And then there are others within the outfit who are also have integrity questions. Is that then the future?
I have said, and I'll repeat here, you must allow all of us to seek office. But the decision on whom to employ lies with the people. The populace is the accountability mechanism in this country. Do not drop the ball. And everybody has a role to play, irrespective of their past. There's some, because this vehicle is stuck in the mud, it needs numbers to push it out. And when I come to push your vehicle, you don't ask for my ID. You let me push your vehicle and you turn and say thank you as you're driving off, isn't it? Therefore, let the people remain the accountability partners. None of us can start telling the others that I'm better than you. Let us present our credentials to you and pick one from among us. Leaders, a group of leaders, however large, including my group of leaders, cannot bring change to this country alone. It's only in partnership with the people. May the people of Kenya utilize their chance of being the accountability mechanism well. Let us work together, but it is only you who can give to this country the leadership it deserves. Allow us to wake you up, to arouse the national consciousness, but let us keep on having this conversation. If the problem is governance, adherence to the rule of law is what will restore good governance. Once you identify the problem, then it helps you to see the sort of leadership you need to fix that problem.
How do we get away from this? I think we've all alluded to it in this conversation when we talk about the mechanism for representation is Parliament.
Yeah.
Right, whether it is a member of Parliament or whether it is a senator, and at this point, or whether it is a member of the county assembly. But if this is hooked to the executive, as you know, many have said it is today, how then do we say that we're going to have proper representation? Look at what has happened in the previous times, that if any member of Parliament would speak in a manner that is outside of what the proposed boundaries are that the executive has charted, then you're going to have a problem. We've seen it most recently. We've seen senators removed, Senator Orobo removed because of the thing that she said. We've seen previously, even in the previous administration, members of the majority removed, members of the minority removed, and other individuals put in their place. It happens over and over. If we see at the level of representation that we can't get clean representation for the people and not the executive, how then do we exercise this power that we have been alluding to through this entire hour?
By electing people who are deserving of those posts. But if we elect people with moral infirmity, then it will not happen. I want to congratulate Senator Gloria Oroba for expressing herself. And I think her removal, I believe it is being challenged. I don't know, but I would expect a proper canvassing of that issue in a court of law. She cannot be removed for merely going to a rally of another person. As a nominated person, you remain vulnerable to being told that you have joined another party. She should have been able to answer and say, William Ruto too has joined ODM. And remember, they have no formal agreement. Therefore, she cannot be removed for what her party has shown her to do. I hope it is being challenged. But what I'm saying is this. I was a member of Parliament. I got elected first in 1992 December. So for 10 years, we were under KANU rule and it was repressive. Although I now think William Ruto, with the new constitution, 2010 constitution, is surpassing the KANU regime. I think he's worse than the KANU regime. We are now in the eclipse days, if those were the dark days. We were outspoken. That was before the 2010 constitution, and those who wish to Google can go backwards and see. We used to challenge the regime. We were very few in parliament, because even among the opposition, only a handful of about 20 people were very vocal. We used to speak. It is not what is written in the law that allows you to say what you say. It is the courage of your conviction within you that what I'm doing is right. That is what is driving the Gen Z. They've been shot, they've been mistreated, even when the law says that they have a right to do this. But because they have the courage, they are convicted that what they are doing is right. That courage of conviction is what is driving them. So elect people of principle, people who believe in service, not who believe in lucrative jobs, because now the job of a parliamentarian, whether in the local assembly or national, has become a glamour job. It's a well-paying job, better than the private sector if you like. So people are seeking leadership, sometimes for the wrong reasons. So look for people who have shown traits that they are pro-people and that they can sacrifice for the people. That is our problem today. And it's the same problem in our institutions, whether it's the judiciary, parliament, or executive. What stops a cabinet secretary from speaking up? You'll be sacked. You can return where you came from. Why do we fear being sacked? How many people work for the government in Kenya? A very, very small percentage. I don't think it's even 5%. The rest of the people are living, are eking out a living, may be difficult. Why don't you join the majority? I've been out of an elected office since 2012. I have not worked with the government at all. I'm alive just like other Kenyans. I find my ground just like other Kenyans. Why are we not willing to sacrifice for what we believe in. When I resigned as minister, it meant losing more than half of my perks.
Yeah.
I went back to the backbench. It was loss of power and privilege, but I gained my peace, and I was able to move on. Let us not fear being sacked. You only fear if you have done something criminal, and you fear they will follow you. Had I done anything wrong when I resigned, I would have been followed by the Kibaki government. Not Kibaki who would have been vindictive, but people around him. But they were not able to get anything to disturb me on. So please, follow the rules of whatever job you hold. Be guided by the courage of your conviction. Don't worry getting sacked. Do get sacked for standing for the right thing. We can only build this nation by being ready to defend it as our national anthem says and as our constitution compels us to do, to stand up, uphold and defend the constitution.
I have two quick questions. One, are you willing to mentor from this Gen Z and these young people who are saying, we want to drain the swamp, we are tired of the old political class, those who've been in politics, part of the government, give us our time and space. Mentor from within the movement or from within the Gen Z and say, we will take a backseat, we will fund you, we will support you, take these leadership positions. 1, 2, do you believe you can mix water with oil? Because you are saying people can go and elect the good ones, but if you have a mix of people who have issues, integrity issues, people who have violated the constitution, and you mix all these people within the same basket, are we not going to end up having the same recipe of what we have with the current administration then?
May I answer you by first telling you that even the country is mixed. Isn't this same population that elected people who had issues knowingly? And to the Gen Zs, I'm already mentoring. We mentor by what we do and what we say. And we also mentor those who come up to us and want to work with us. So I'm mentoring through all methods. And anybody who walks up to me and is seeking mentorship, I never say no, because I too was mentored by others. About sitting back to give the Gen Z leadership positions, the robust answer is that it doesn't happen. I wrestled an old man out of the Geshogo seat. I invite the Gen Z, come wrestle me out of, I don't have any seat, but come we compete. If you believe you are faster than me, in my 67 years, soon to be 68, come run with me. If you outrace me, I will salute you and support. Let us stop this holier than thou. Yes, there are people with lots of integrity issues among leadership, and also a few among the population. Let each person be taken as an individual. We may work together, but seeking for a position is personal. Each one of us is seeking the position. Allow me to run my race. We could be 10 marathoners. We all have our track, and we are racing in the same field. Let me run my race. Judge me as me. Judge my brother as him. Judge everyone. Judge the Gen Z in the track next to me as that Gen Z. Because even Gen Zs, there are some who are terrible. True. A few of them who have, even gotten positions within leadership. So it's not about ageism. It is about what you represent. So I'm open. Come race with me. You'll be so shocked when I outpace you. But should you outpace me, I'll embrace you. Yeah. I'll salute you. And we will walk and work together. It's our nation after all. Wow. And in the family, you never cast your father or mother away because from the family business. But there is a way you may work so hard in it and demonstrate certain qualities until they both tell you, son or daughter, we want to sit back
and let you
take this to the next level. That's where we are.
Martha Karua, party leader of the People Liberations Party, has been here with us this morning. things that we can't have gotten if we didn't speak with you today. And we want to thank you for being here today. Necessary for us to continue in this manner.
Thank you for having me. And Kenyans, remember, let us stand with the courage of our conviction. It starts with who you are inside. Yeah.
Thank you for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And thank you for kicking off into the month of July in this manner. We'll talk again tomorrow, God willing. It's 3 minutes past 10.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamera. PLP leader Martha Karua has said President William Ruto is